Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 219 of the Noclip podcast. It's a Crewcast. If you watch this on YouTube, you'll notice the 30 seconds of madness we do beforehand because we have all this music playing and we need to have something happening on the screen. Jesse was playing some sort of instrument, I think, but it kind of just looked like he was doing heroin. Or not heroin, sorry, he was smoking meth, sorry.
I might have been before, but I'm not now. I was playing my little trombone, it's a miniature trombone. Hey, Danny, could you tell me a sad fact? Not something so sad, but just like a little sad.
Oh, I was supposed to have a big St. Patrick's Day party at my house this weekend, which I do and invite friends and whatnot. But in typical Irish tradition, it rained too much and we had to cancel it. I was expecting you to blow into it. I don't know why.
I was too. Also, I think if the police pull you over and you're smoking meth out of a tiny trombone, they have to let you go. Because you're like,
He's
I
too
didn't
cool.
mean to do it. And then you go, whirr, 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 whirr.
It's like this little known 18th century law actually has me covered on this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Madness. We have a lot of video games to talk about this week. Frank's here as well. Hey, Frank.
Hello, good morning.
What's it say on your shirt? Because if I was dyslexic, I would think that it said swastika, but it says Saki.
No.
It says Saki Kashima and Kenshiro Stardom, so it's a collaboration between Saki Kashima and Kenshiro. A Fist of the North Star. There's also kanji on it, but I think this also says Fist of the North Star. Hokoto no Shinken.
Perfect. Love it. Absolutely love it. That's why you're here, Frank. You add that spice. You have much needed spice we don't have. Well, I'm not spicy. I'm potato boy. I'm sure the rest of you guys are pretty spicy. You know who's also spicy? Our incredible patrons over at patreon.com/noclip. Thank you all the folks who signed up in the past week. I think myself and Ben Hansen's support group had some people thinking, you know what, I think I'll chip in a little bit to these motherfuckers. So we really appreciate it. Thank you all. It's been rad seeing folks pop up in the Discord and chat about why they appreciate our work. So thank you so much. And we also appreciate all of you, including our Battle Pass holders, Anthony Thomas, Nico Bassaderi, It's a Me Ferrario, Penelope Hayes, Senator Armstrong, Eamon Slattery, Harry Flanagan, Juice, Arno, Richard Matherson, Matt Pearson, James Brown, Mark Rojas, Tucker Morgan, David McGarry, Sven Ooster, Pez, Ewan Nate, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Jonathan Kremen, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Christoph Fetui, Cameron Laird, Zachary Snader, Alex Goucher, George Sikotis, Jacob Godserve, and Theogen, Tohir Tiliev, and Ryson. Thank you all so much for supporting us, you absolute legends. We were making video game documentaries. There's a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about Dwarf Fortress stuff in a little bit. First episode should be out by the time you listen to this. And a little bit of a trailer I put together last night. Shot at like midnight because I was like, we need to put something up that explains why we're doing why we do anything, because we just don't, we just don't explain stuff. It's bad. I don't explain stuff. I don't say we. It rests on my shoulders. But we're not here to talk about that stuff. We're here to talk about a bunch of new video games. Atomfall's embargo should hopefully have dropped by the time this goes live. Yeah, 7 a.m. Pacific on Friday, Jesse. So that's 7 a.m. A little bit later than usual. So sorry, Europe. But you won't be sorry, hopefully, when you listen to these hot off the press reactions. Jesse's going to talk about Wanderstop and Expelled. Frank has played the new wrestling game, WWE 2K25. Jeremy's got some interesting, weird-ass indie games to talk about as well. So we got a whole smorgasbord of video games to talk about. Gentlemen, because it's embargo day, I think Atomfall should go first. If you don't mind.
Drop some atoms on us, man. Let's hear it.
I knew nothing about this thing. Nothing. I think I maybe saw a logo or saw maybe a little teaser. I don't know. It just did not cross my eyeballs at all. What do you guys know about Atomfall right now? Right today, right now. What do you know about it?
This is a new Rebellion game,
yes.
Right? That's like Stalker-y a little bit. It's a first-person survival-ish game, I feel like.
Fair. Okay. Frank, do you know anything?
just from what the Steam page has. I remember seeing the trailer a while ago. A survival action game. I don't know. Is it like Fallout? Is it like Stalker? Is it multiplayer forced or forced multiplayer? Is it a single player game? That's the number one question I want.
Big questions. I love it. Jeremy, what about you? Is this fresh to you as well?
Well, this is fresh to me. Frank scooped me, though. I was just going to read the Steam description and be like, yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say it's probably like a nuclear disaster has left an area of Britain in tatters or something.
Wow.
I don't know. Just
Hey, look,
You're clairvoyant.
Everyone
Yeah,
on the
thank
pod
you.
does their homework for what's on the document by at least reading the Steam page. That's kind of that's the bare minimum I expect anyway. So fair play. Yeah, this is from Rebellion, which is like if you grew up playing PC games in the 90s, man, like Alien vs Predator, that Rebellion logo comes up, you're like, yeah, baby, let's do it. It's a cool logo. They worked on a bunch of stuff over the years on PC and on a PlayStation as well. They're sort of a strange historical studio because they've been around since like the early 90s, but they've also done a lot of work for hire stuff. They have a couple of sort of go-tos at the moment. Sniper Elite is kind of their main franchise at this stage. They brought another Evil Genius out last year, I think, or a couple of years ago it was at this stage. But they haven't had like anything outside of those, I would say, that hit really hard in a while. This game's great. This game is makes me feel real good about playing video games. It makes me feel real good about seeing that Rebellion logo pop up. So this is you were all right. It is all what you talked about, but it is also like very singular. Like what I love about this game, I think it's full of very smart economic design choices, which I think pare the game down in a way that we have kind of seen with a lot of these first-person RPGs. But this one does not feel small like some of the other ones do feel like smaller versions of big games. So I can't complete any of these games because new ones keep coming out. I went back to play Stalker 2 at the start of the year. Kingdom Come Deliverance comes out and trips me out of that. Avowed comes out and trips me out of that. And then this one is coming. This is like year of the... I know Stalker 2 was last year, but this is like era of the first-person open world RPG thing. And this one sort of, I would say, scale wise is sort of Avowed sized, maybe something like that. I hear it's like 20 something hours. I'm 7 hours in at the moment. Map size wise, kind of similar. It's a bunch of discrete zones that are connected via either gates or tunnels. So there are loading screens between those, or if you go into certain large buildings and things like that. But you emerge with, tell me if you heard this one before. You emerge from a sort of an underground bunker with amnesia into basically like beautiful North England, like stony towns, stone walls, little churches with vicars in it. It's very twee. It's like something you'd see on a postcard or something like that. But unfortunately, the area that you're in, this like couple of miles of area is sort of in a bubble. Like people can't get out of it because this event happened at this nuclear power station, or this power station. It is not nuclear in origin, the issue. It's like sort of, I don't know yet, and obviously a big part of this game is unraveling the secret, but essentially everyone in this world is like stuck here. All the people in like a local village are stuck. There are armies of bandits walking around who are just like trying to survive. There is a army presence within this world. There are some people who live in the woods. I'm going to be very careful about spoilers on this because I think I enjoyed this so much because I knew nothing about it, and unraveling the world has been so much fun because I think the world design is fantastic. It feels very well realized. It feels very like kind of campy and fun, and also like believable within its world. It does the same thing as Kingdom Come Deliverance. I feel bad for Stalker 2 in a way because obviously one of the things that people have said about that game is that the performance in it is unfortunately a little bit shaky. Kingdom Come obviously was like, we were like, oh man, this game looks great. Like the forests look great. This looks, I don't know if it looks better, but it looks insanely good. I don't know what engine it's on or what they're doing. From a rendering, like distance perspective, it's incredible. And then from an art design perspective, like the colors in it are really cool. Like there's been a couple of games who have tried to do this sort of like British outdoor funky thing. Like remember We Happy Few a few years ago, which had like, that sort of like It's like, I don't know what you call it, like Brit horror or something. There's a great game years
That's just
ago.
regular Britain. That's just
At this stage, exactly. There's two types. There is the thank goodness you're here, England, and then there is the ones you see in these games.
scary for different reasons.
Exactly. There was a game years ago that Jim Rosenthal, game developer and ex-PC gamer writer, brought out called Sir, You Are Being Hunted. I'm not sure you guys have ever played it. Yeah, so I get a little bit of vibe of that from this one because it's kind of like outdoorsy and there are some mechanical, robot-y kind of things. There's one type, I guess, but that's not neither here nor there, I guess. But there's elements of that. There's like this weird sort of like 80s tech, or what tech would look like if it was like super powered in the 80s or 70s. Like that's kind of where this feels like it's a little bit. So it just looks fantastic, first of all. And then the gameplay is like a really smart, like I said, pared down, but doesn't feel like it's a half measure or half serving you're getting. Like your inventory slots, you only have like maybe 20 or so, and then like 4 for weapons. And then so you're doing a lot of juggling. There's no currency in the game, so when you're finding people to like trade with, you're basically doing barter. And some of them prefer some things over others. Like some prefer weapons, some prefer explosives, some prefer medicines. And then you're basically like giving them stuff and they're giving stuff back to you. The combat as well is like, you don't use that much ammo. It's like weirdly Resident Evil-y in terms of the amount of like bullets you have to put into somebody to kill them. Like if you get a shotgun blast up front on one of these people or get a headshot, you'll take them out right away, or might take you a couple of like hits with an arrow or a low powered gun or something like that to get them. So if they're in packs, they can be quite dangerous. And you have to be like tactical with like explosives and stuff. But you're not like, you might have 20 rounds in your gun. So like you're thinking about it when you're going in, how much ammunition you have and stuff like that.
Is there scarcity with the ammo? Like, are you trying to hold on to your bullets?
I think it's a really well done balancing act because it doesn't feel like it's scarcity like you're really struggling for ammo, but it definitely stops you going like hell for leather and killing everyone. Like it kind of stops you like going into a base and then expecting that you have enough ammo to kill like 10 people. Because also they don't drop all that much. You kind of find the ammo more than you get it off people, which is quite cool. Like some of them are just melee. Like you can play this whole game melee as well. There's a big focus on melee combat if you want. I've not been doing that, but
can you stealth? Is
that's
that
also
an
an option? There is some stealth. Like there's kind of hot tall grass you can get in. It's all during the daytime perpetually. There is some indoor stuff that has some stealth stuff, but again, it's like there's something about the game. It's not overly systemic. It like feels like it's somewhere between a ImSim and like, a regular Half-Life first person experience. Like it feels more of like an upgraded version of a regular sort of, Half-Life-y, first person point to point game than it does like a smaller version of those. And I don't really know how they do it. I think maybe it's because the game, there's something maybe about the art style of the camera and everything that makes it feel a bit more like you're like, and maybe the art style's so dense that it feels more about what's immediately in front of you rather than what's out there, I guess. But yeah, it feels kind of more like that. There's a lot of like Half-Life 2 vibes off this as well. Like in fact, there's even like a Noam Chomsky thing in one of the towns. There's a bunch of garden gnomes that you can punch, and I think maybe if you get them all, you get something. I don't know. But the visuals of it, the sort of like the tech horror meets regular people's towns is kind of a feel here. Like the art direction is really, really, really strong, and each area has its own thing. So like the area you start in is sort of like a valley, and like I said, I mentioned there was a wood, and there's like a little place where some people live, and there's a bunch of these things, and then obviously you're exploring buildings and industry and secret things that people didn't know were there and stuff like that.
Yeah, what's the structure of that? Because you're talking about the exploration, but like why? What's your motivation for doing anything in the game? Is it quest based? Do you sort of return to a hub multiple times? What's that like?
So it's really interesting and bizarre. Can you hear a frog by any chance?
That's what that is. I thought there was like a witch outside.
Is this frog gonna go off the whole time? I swear to God, it's 10 o'clock, man. Sometimes these frogs do this.
It's all right. It's
like usually not.
I thought that was outside of my house. Yeah, I hear it so clearly.
10 in the morning. Come on. Do you guys want to talk among yourselves and let me kill a frog for 3 minutes?
I'm
not gonna kill a frog. I'll show you that. I won't kill the frog.
Bring
I'll
the
bring
frog,
you
in,
the frog.
and
I'll
then
bring
we'll
the frog.
trust
You guys talk
okay.
amongst
It's like Monster Hunter.
I can't exactly. I'm gonna go cook my food and go. You guys talk among yourselves. We can't put our listeners through this shit first.
Sure, or me. So Atomfall, guys, what do you think so far from what Danny's saying? What are we saying out of 10? 7, 5?
There's an achievement. I was looking at the PlayStation trophies. There's an achievement for eating a pastry, having tea, and having a slice of cake. So I'm like,
Holy shit!
I got
it is
guess.
Britain.
No,
This is just a British life simulator.
So I really like the sniper. The sniper. I must call them sniper.
Yeah,
rebellion.
you love those Sniper Elite games.
So it's
yeah.
like these games are. I don't know. Like I love those games. So I'm down to try this. It is on Game Pass day one on Friday.
Let's go,
so
baby.
I'll give
That's
it a
big.
shot. I'm cresting 100,000 gamer score. So if
Dude.
I don't know what's gonna take me over the edge. It's like finding it's like looking for a prom date. What's gonna be the right game that's gonna get me?
You got to be careful with that, man. The vice president, you become vice president when you get 100,000 gamer score. It's a fact.
No,
you're gonna become JD Vance.
I can't pick any. Yeah, you can't pick any running mate to get you there.
I feel like we talked about this before. I can't
It's
remember
gonna be
what
a
the
big game,
specifics are.
but I'm at like 98,000, so I can I almost said dip my tea. I don't know. I'm trying to use British expressions.
Oh, that's good. Dip
my
your
tea.
tea bag in there.
I would love a presidential debate where they were debating the merits of their gamer score, where they're like, listen, I've got like 100,000, and the other guy's like, yeah, but that's bullshit, because you're always playing games where you
Dude,
get like
we
10
all
points
know
for just
you
firing
played
it
the
up.
Legend of Korra game and you were bullshitting 1,000 gamer score. You just sat
We
there
all know
throwing
you went to
fireballs.
Blockbuster, just grabbed all the easy games.
You bought all those $1 games, the like crappy indie things. We know. We saw
went to the
you.
Walmart dollar bin and bought fucking Nicktoons Adventure.
That's not what your gamer score can do for you.
America needs how long until we get the first gamer president? Like how long until?
I mean, Elon Musk is already in there, isn't he? Or wait, no, he
no.
faked it all. Sorry, never mind. Never mind.
Number one, he's not president. Number two, he's a fake gamer.
I
so.
mean, I don't know. It looks that way up here.
Listen, I didn't elect him, and I've never seen his. We need to audit his gamer score at some point for this country. It's like, remember when Obama was the president and people were like truthers about like his birth certificate? I'm that way, but for gamer score.
We're doing that with Elon Musk. He was saying he was like a big number one on what was it, Diablo 4 or
Path of
something,
Exile
or Path of Exile 2.
And then
yeah,
someone saw him at a rally, and then he was also logged in a dungeon at the same time.
yeah, he was getting boosted. What a faker.
The one thing that sounds promising about Atomfall is it's not a like multiplayer like extraction. Like anytime,
That's what I thought it was at
anytime I
first,
see
too.
this setting, it's like, all right, is it multiplayer? I just want to.
Yeah,
Like,
I thought it was a Chernobylite kind of thing, but I guess not.
One of my favorite games I played last year is when I finally played Fallout 4. So I was like, dude, if this is like Fallout 4, I'm in.
This does remind me a
this
bit
is-
of Fallout London that he was talking about that
yeah.
mod
Oh, yeah.
last year. Yeah, I wanted to. Can he get back? Can he kill that frog or not? Whatever.
It
just
stops,
explain.
right? Unless he muted the mic.
I don't hear
yeah.
it.
Then we don't hear like him
Yeah.
cleaving it.
Good point.
Um,
Cleaving the
Cleaving it. You hear like a little tiny scream. Yeah, this is like the country equivalent of Fallout London. Have you guys ever seen Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man? Not the Nicolas Cage one.
Oh
Yeah.
No.
Oh man, it's a very strange movie, very weird, and so it's like this city cop goes to this like rural community to investigate a weird sort of nature cult, and hijinks ensue. Has a very weird scene where one of the cultists is trying to seduce him, but it all happens through the wall, so they're both kind of just like rubbing on the wall, and it cuts between them. A very weird, sort of like horny 70s folk horror movie, but this clearly is referencing Wicker Man.
yeah, and that second screenshot has the giant wicker man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you guys
What
just
up,
talking
Frog
about the
Killer?
game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
Well,
lucky.
we were also talking about auditing the president's gamer score.
Yeah.
Great, can't wait to listen back on this. I couldn't find the frog. I like cleaned out all the gunk. I don't know where. he's so loud.
Turn around, Danny. He's right,
He's right
there.
behind you.
Frogs, just go away. Anyway, where were we? Atomfall.
Yeah.
No frogs. in Atomfall.
Out of
So
10,
it's
what are you saying?
Single player game. It's not multiplayer.
Totally single player.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
story based. Oh, so Jesse was asking about the quest stuff. So it uses like a weird system, and I'm not totally bought into this. Although I see why, I kind of get why it works because it focuses the player. So here's first thing. I don't know if there's any fast travel in this game. I have never found it. The review guide I don't think had anything about fast travel in it. I kind of skimmed the review guide because it was a bit spoilery, so I didn't want to read too much of it. So I could be wrong. I'll put that caveat in there, but I don't know if there's any way to quickly zip around the map, except there's there's one way, but it still involves walking around, and it only saves you a little bit of time. So the quest it's kind of like, what's it called? They don't call it a hint system. They don't call it tips. They call it leads. It's a lead system. And basically what it does is anytime you talk to somebody and they give you information, because there are NPCs in this world, and if you find a note, for instance, that says something, you're reading a lot of notes, it gives you a lead. And these leads can kind of be part of, a specific, they don't use the word quest, I think, for a very good reason, but there can be like, you might pick up and it might go in with like 4 other leads with this like, story that you're basically in. And they divide the leads up into the different parts of the map that you might be in, these sort of distinct open zones. And it sort of works in that, like, when you go into an area, it tells you how many open leads you have. And there are no quests. So there's no quest markers. And the map is like weird. Like, you kind of have to read the map. Like, they don't really tell you where to go. They don't like put a dot on the map for you. Some of the leads early on actually had coordinates, like XY coordinates, that I was able to use to find stuff. But largely what they do is they sort of draw in things on your map. So when you get the map at the start, it's just like a paper map that has like the area in it. When you walk into an area, it gives you the whole area. But then as you're walking around, you're discovering settlements or villages or things or whatever, points of interest in the world. And then it almost gets like sketched in on top of it. So it's this very light touch thing of like, you have to sort of be self-motivated to find stuff. And I think it works because what ends up happening is, if there was a main quest, and there is, like, you can clearly tell what the most important thing is. It's the first kind of lead you get, and it exists in an import above everything else that's very self-evident. But what happens is that, like, instead of sort of, I think the reason maybe this works, and I just don't know quite yet, is because instead of prioritizing the sort of ones that seem like they are the most important, you end up kind of just doing the ones that are close to you, in your area you're in, or ones that you can kind of nip around and do. And another important thing to mention is you're not getting XP for any of this. There is an unlock system, and there are upgrades you can get, but it's very, like, interestingly handled. You literally, there is an object you can pick up in the world, which is basically like a training stimulant that you can use to learn one of the things. And one of the perks might be worth 3 of them, or 1 of them, or 6 of them, or whatever, these objects you find. And then you
Brain
also
force. It's just lying around.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the actual recipes for both, like, things that you can make, like bandages, for instance, if you get hurt, or like one of the skills, like the ability to, I don't know, fix your gun, reload your gun faster or something. I'm just making one up at the top of my head. A lot of those are actually like ones that you can either find or buy from traders. Like, you can buy them. And some of them cost a decent amount of, in this bartering system. So it's really like handing this stuff out piece by piece. And it's not really a thing where, like, if you do a bunch of side quests, you get OP because you've harvested all this XP and now you're like level 20 going into the area. It doesn't really work like that. And this is where it feels like this game has like dozens of very smart, discrete design decisions which contribute to this. Like, one of the more obvious ones is, like, instead of having a stamina bar, you just have your heart rate is there. And if you go too high in your heart rate from either swinging and hitting people or running, like every stamina thing, if it gets above like 180 or whatever, you start to, like, your heartbeat starts getting louder and stuff. And it's just like a very, like, it's a different way of doing something that we've had gamified for a long time, but it gives this game personality and its own, like, vibe. And there's loads of that stuff around. Like, there's also these, like, you notice it, like, in the first 5 minutes you walk out of the area you're first in, and there's this big, quintessential English red telephone box just standing there. I was
going to ask if those are there. Hell yeah.
They're here, but, like, it rings. The minute you walk out, it rings, and then you answer it, and there's, like, there's some. So it's a lot of, what's going on, who am I, why am I here, what's real, can people get out of this, can they not get out of this thing, sort of like the island kind of vibe to it. I should get Leo Vader to play this game. yeah, it's just smart and works, and yeah, I find it to be just really new and novel in a weird way, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. The combat took a little bit to click, but now I really like that as well, and yeah, it's just fun to explore this map and kind of uncover all the secrets. There's so much weird, wacky shit that they've put in here, and I think, you know, there's no like big, crazy long quests or like companions or you know, it's not like it feels like more writing than you would get in a sort of traditional first person game for characters and stuff like that. But you're not going on these big multi-part quests for people. It's much more perfunctory than that. So I really can't compare it to anything else. It's not like full RPG like Avowed. It's not full simmy shooter like Stalker. It's not full survivalist game either. Like, you're making bandages and you're doing things like that to get health, but that's because they just don't want to litter health packs everywhere. Like, and you also get health from food, so you're just finding Cornish pasties and fucking slamming them. You know what I mean? Slamming them and tomatoes and shit and just eating them, and it gives you a bit of health. So, yeah.
I'm curious, like, tonally, how serious does it take itself? And is it kind of like, is it doing like we're being a little silly, or is this like deadpan?
No, it's being silly, but it's not comedy game.
Yeah.
What was the Hot Fuzz? Have you ever seen Hot Fuzz?
Yeah.
Like,
is it like that?
It's drifting into that. It's never full funny like that, but it's more that. It's more like this is like these. It's kind of, you know. Oh, I wish I could tell you some specifics, but I really don't want to spoil this stuff. There's one element of the game that I think Jeremy would get a particular kick out of, but like some of the people you find are like, they're sort of, you know, in a fog a bit, because they're, you know, it's been like years of them stuck in this thing, and like some of them can't remember life before it, and some of them are like, I think we can get out of here, and some aren't. And the villages are like there are very campy people who are like, you know, with the soldiers or with the village, or it's, you know, I'm trying to think what other like funny, like even the telephone calls are interesting and funny. You just meet a bunch of oddballs, kind of like in Hot Fuzz, and you're like, is there something else going on here, or I don't know. But no, it's not taking itself seriously at all, but it's also not like it's believable within the world. Like it strikes a good balance of, you know, sincerity when it needs to, and, you know, I don't want to go on like this. The story in this game is like incredible or anything. I think the dialogue and the NPCs and stuff serve their purpose and are cool. I think the world building aspect is the strongest part of it, and that's the part that I'm finding interesting. And yeah, there's other bits and bobs, like the combat encounters are interesting. There's like other types of NPCs, like small, like rats and other bats and things that can affect you in different ways, and you have to figure out ways to get past them. There's like tripwires in the world. There's some things that have been set up by this army that are harder to get into because they've got like alarms around them and things like that. So there's a good variety of, you know, it's like that, not to keep harping on about Half-Life, but it's like that thing of like there are multiple antagonists in this world that are also don't like each other. So you're sort of in the mix, and you exist as outside of the politics and culture of these people, because you're an outsider, because they don't know who you are and they know everyone pretty much, right? So like they're like, oh, where'd you come from? You know, you're not part of this faction or this faction. So some of them like you, some of them don't. Maybe that can change as well. I'm not quite sure. I'm only 7 hours in, but it's cool. It's I just love that world. It's a fun world to explore. You know how I like exploring fun worlds.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Atomfall.
Well, it's on Game Pass, so we can fall on some atoms. Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Frank, for the report.
Hell yeah. Is it on PC Game Pass?
It must be.
As well, yeah.
Day one with Xbox Game Pass. World premiere.
Yeah, people should definitely play this thing. Like,
Yeah,
you'll
I'll check
know
it out.
within a few minutes if you're into it. I think the opening it's very like you're straight into it. Like the opening of the game is like 5 minutes, and then you're just playing the game. And then what's wild about it is you can really go in any direction. Like the actual area that you start in, I ended up coming back to ages later. I just went wandering off in this other direction and found some cool stuff, and then eventually came back. Yeah, good times. Good job, Atomfall. I'm excited to see what the reviews are like, because it seems like a strong game. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
Jesse, do you want to talk
Sure.
about Wanderstop?
Sure, I
Should
can
do that one.
Yeah.
When did
Stopping
that come
some
out?
Wanders, falling some atoms.
Yeah.
Last week, right?
Cool. Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. That feels right.
Is this a hard
Yeah,
game to
March
talk
11th.
about? Because is it like doing something?
No, so yeah, you know what? Let me lay some groundwork here.
Yeah.
This game was made by exclusively. He's the only person who worked on it. Davey Reedon. No, it's the team Ivy Road. It's Davey Reedon, and I want to make sure I get her name right. Carla Zamania, apologies if I'm butchering that, founded a studio called Ivy Road together. It's a ton of people worked on this. The credits are way longer than I thought they'd be. But Wanderstop is, I've talked about it before, like way too many times now, but it's a cozy game. It's a cozy game from people who don't normally make those. And when you think Davey Reedon, you think the Stanley Parable, you think the Beginner's Guide. Please play the Beginner's Guide. It's so good. The Wanderstop is not, like, I'm going to be straight up. It is not the subversive, like, meta game thing that you're looking for. This isn't like, if you want the Stanley Parable 2, don't play this. It's not, I'll say it straight up. It is not going to turn into a first-person shooter halfway through. There is not a British guy narrating everything you do. Like, it's not that kind of game. It is a very straight-faced, cozy game, capital C, cozy. The thing about it that's subversive and that puts it into that sort of realm of being compared to Davy's work, and honestly Carla's work as well, is that it very pointedly talks about burnout, and it talks about recovery and like the challenges that come along with that. And it does it in this format, in this genre that I don't think approaches its own sort of like issues on its. Most of the games tend to just be like, this is the power fantasy of being free and being allowed to like run a farm and own land. This game is like pointing at that and saying, like, is that necessarily right? I think a little bit. Maybe it's me projecting on it somewhat, but I think the story of it is very interesting. So I'll explain Wanderstop real quick, the gameplay part of it. So you're playing as Alta. She's this woman who's like been fighting for years, trying to become the greatest fighter, never lose. That's her goal. Eventually she begins to lose, and she can't deal with that. So in her goal of figuring out why she's losing and trying to become more powerful, she escapes into the forest looking for this trainer who eventually she collapses. The Alta, she collapses while she's running through the forest and wakes up at the Wanderstop. She meets a character named Boro, who's like this big galoot, like this big, like, I imagine the way he's written is sort of like broken English, so every time he says anything I assume he's like Eastern European or something, like, oh, I don't know what you are wanting, Mrs. Alta, you could do. But like, it's from that point on, you are there and you can't pick up your sword, and she can't figure out why. And it's like this, really, the way it's written and the way it's presented is this very, I think if you don't know what it's like to go through burnout, and if you have gone through burnout, it's like an eye-opening experience to see it sort of retold in a narrative way like that, especially in a video game, especially in this genre, again, that is mostly like people go to relax to play these games. And what you're doing in it is you run the Wanderstop with Boro, which is a tea shop in the middle of this forest. Characters show up. The characters are all funny. Every character is good. There's not one character I got annoyed with or tired of. I wanted to see more of them. Like the first ones you see is like a knight who's just a dorky dad and like doesn't know what he's doing. And you get to meet him and learn about his son and everything. And like you can care or you cannot care. It's all up to you.
You're vibing with the story.
Exactly. I like the story a lot, but the gameplay part of it, you're making tea as they come in and ask for requests. You'll have to grow plants to make the fruit to make the tea. But like the plant growing is not the core of the game. It's not a day-night cycle. You're not like going out of your way and waiting a couple days for the carrots to grow so you can pull them and then plant more carrots. It's like you plant the seeds in a specific arrangement in this sort of hexagonal grid on the ground. And there you go. Now you've got it. And the Wanderstop is in this big clearing. You have a ton of space to plant stuff and get a little decorative. But the end point of the demo and the preview that I got a couple weeks ago, I was expecting there to be some like big jump, and there is, and it's really beautiful and sad. I don't want to say what it is because that's the one thing where I'm like,
so what are you doing most of the time? Because there's how much of this is story beats? How much, like, is each level a person you're talking to? Is each like how, like, the growing doesn't seem like it's a big part of it. So like, what are you actually doing moment to moment?
So yeah, that's sort of, I think, what makes Wanderstop so interesting is that it's not one of those games. It is very much a straightforward narrative focused thing where the growing the plants, the committing to people's orders, doing all of that stuff is straightforward and is something that you do almost to like progress the story. So someone will have an order for a drink that they want, and like the tea, they'll just say, I want tea that tastes like whatever, happy. And you go through your book, you have this book that has all of the different plants and all the different seeds, and you can pick something out. Sometimes it's specific and you have to sort of solve the puzzle for it, but it's, I want mint. Look for the fruit that has mint in the description. And then you make it for them, you give it to them. Some of them are a little more, you can kind of give them whatever and see what happens, or at least it seemed that way anyways, which is interesting. And you can drink the tea on your own. But yeah, the moment to moment is more about story stuff. It's more about, I think, interacting with these characters, learning about Alta, and sort of like seeing the ways that people are affected. Because clearly the Wanderstop exists as this like, I don't know, landing space for people who have problems, whether that's personal or external. Every single character you meet has their own little weird quirk to them that makes them interesting, not just because they're funny or nice to be around, but also because, again, it's another lens through, I think, seeing burnout, seeing how characters deal with their own personal trauma or their own personal ways of recovering. And the one thing that you do every single time you make tea, by the way, I love it. It's so ridiculous, but it's sort of the core of Wanderstop. And I think the way that it achieves its ultimate goal of like telling a story about recovery and how that becomes a part of your life and not something you do so you can get back to burning yourself out. Making the tea in Wanderstop requires you to go to this big tea machine in the middle of the tea shop, and you have to perform the same actions every single time you want to make the tea. It's like if you like brew your own coffee, you got to grind the beans and everything, you got to go through the whole process. Here you to climb up this, like, it's like a Ghibli ass room. You climb up the ladder, you pull the thing, the water goes in, you hit the bellows. Like, there's a whole process to it. It's very whimsical. It's one of those whimsical games. The music's done by C418, who did the music for Minecraft. So it has that same sort of feeling. But yeah, the overall story of Wanderstop, I think what makes it work, and also what I think makes it kind of hurt itself by the end, is that it's, again, about this character Alta recovering from burnout, and the ways that recovering from that is not like a thing you do for a little bit and then you're good again, right? Her big issue is that she's ambitious, overly ambitious, to the point of it hurting her. And it's like this desire, this spark in her that she doesn't want to lose is also the thing that's causing her to be in this spot. So I think it's told in this very mature, interesting way that, like, I thought initially I was going to finish it and be like, yeah, duh. Like, I could have told you that's what this game was going to be about from like the first 5 minutes. But no, it actually, I think, does a good job of presenting this story about this specific topic. And again, touching it from different angles, like they introduced one character who I think is like the perfect antithesis. If like you're a young person who's like what are you talking about? How did you get burnt out? That's not even real. There's a character you meet at a certain point who's very similar to Alta. He will walk you through it. You'll understand your own hubris. But yeah, it does so much more with the idea than I thought it would. But then I also, like, I knew it was going to be, it's one of the,
have you completed it?
Yeah, I've got to the end. I finished it. About 14, 15 hours. Depends on how much you want to do side stuff, how much you interact with the characters.
How much you want to burn out.
How much you want to burn out. So this is the point that I wanted to make. And I was talking to my wife. I was like, I hope Danny's on the podcast because I think he'll have an interesting insight into this. I hit the thing. Perfect timing. Let me move that. Perfect timing.
That's brilliant.
It's like I couldn't have written it better than that. So
hold on to your pants for my shit opinion.
So okay, Wanderstop, again, game about burnout, but like the point that is made throughout most of your playtime is that you are reminded that there's nothing to do sometimes. You are going to be bored a lot, on purpose. It's intentionally boring at certain points. You'll go and ask Boro, what do I do now? He's like,
His name is Boro?
Yeah, Boro, it's so good. He's like, Miss Molta, I don't know, do nothing. Sit down, have fun, drink tea, do whatever you want. But find, you have to figure out how to have fun when you have nothing to do. And so by the end of the game, about 75% of the way through, when you figure out, that's what this is about. Right? I'm not spoiling anything.
Okay.
I'm just saying 75% of the way through, I was like, okay, I get it. Like from that point on, I was like, yeah, I'm sort of just waiting for it to be over. I get the point that it's trying to make. And then you could argue this is a spoiler, but I'm saying,
okay, if you want to play this game, skip ahead a couple of minutes.
Yeah, like 2 minutes. If you're very, very picky about spoilers, at the end of the game, near the end of the game, you're suggested perhaps, if you would like to, spend some time just sitting around, cleaning up, cutting some vines, sweeping up the leaves. I think if you're, as a recommendation to sort of like make boredom something that you look at positively, to make tedium become something that you appreciate. My problem with that is, or at least the feeling that I had, and the thing I'm curious about is like, is it wrong for me to, because when I was playing, I was like, shouldn't I go clean my own house? I was like, this tedium, this desire for me to spend my time in the Wanderstop hanging out, I was like, no, like I don't. Yeah. There was more story stuff, it seemed like, if I sort of hung out and did that. But no, I was like, I mean, if I'm getting the point of this story, I should turn the game off and go do literally anything else. So I was a little, I don't know. I just, by the end of it, I was wondering, yeah, I don't know. Is that silly? Am I coming at it the wrong way, or do you guys think
we could extend that logic to every game? I guess.
I suppose that was the real existential crisis I was having. Was why am I ever playing a video game? I should be doing anything else.
Yeah, this sounds like a game that is like there are gonna be some video essays about this one.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I'm excited to.
They're all gonna have the same title too. I guarantee it.
And it's hard for me to like sort of chip in on that, having not played it, because I feel like so much of the, like, you're describing this very well. Like I'm not
sure,
I'm not
but yeah, everything. You can only comment on my own perspective on it.
Yeah, and like I have a different relation. This is gonna sound super like I'm fucking preaching or something, but like, a lot of this stuff goes out the fucking window once you have children. Like how much time you have, what you use it for, and like what you're getting out of it, and like your responsibilities. Like that sort of gets solved for you in some way once you attach a being that will die unless you do those things. It like sort of
but you're also one of those. Just to be clear, you got to do that for yourself.
Yeah, so that's a good point too. Yeah, but like I guess the margins are so small that like and also the thing that you also get is all of this other like, I don't know what you call it, like, and life force that you didn't get before, because like there is a joy in, it's like the monk who works away on a piece of wood all day, and then a year later they've made this incredible, piece of art or whatever. Like, you get that for free with a kid because you have to do it, but then you're getting all of the rewards all the time. So like, so much of my feeling with like boredom in particular is sort of out the window, and has been for about 6 years now, because like I just don't have to fill all those hours anymore. If anything, there aren't enough hours in the day. But I'm interested in the crunch stuff. I think is obviously, this is very, very true within the games industry. It's so difficult. I mean, Jeremy can speak to this probably better than any of us in terms of just like the amount of work that needs to get put in to make anything in games, and how much it like takes over your mind. And I've talked before about, at least with videos, they're done. Like I crunched hard on that Half-Life 2 thing with the Secret Tape project, and it was really hard, but it was done, and I couldn't patch it. So at least there's that. So I do, yeah. I wonder. I'd be really interested to think what game developers think of this game. I wonder if it like especially sort of speaks to them. Obviously,
Reedon talked about that in the trailer also, which I thought was a wild way to do a launch date trailer. About
really?
Why,
he's just like chatting about it.
Yeah, he was straight up like, I wanted to make a cozy game because I thought it would help me recover and like get over my burnout from the previous projects. And he was like, no, that didn't help. Like, I'm, making this game didn't make me feel better. It was a very raw, but also if you played the beginner's guide, little weird. Weird hearing Davey Reedon say anything about anything about game development, especially that raw. But yeah, no, that is a really good point. That like, I think when you reach a certain point, you don't get to be, not that you don't get to be, but like you kind of can't relish in the burnout. I feel like you have I'm not a parent, but like you have that level of responsibility that you reach where you're like, I have to do this. Like, it doesn't, and part of me, I think also when I got to the end of the game, I was thinking like, part of it is like, this almost seems like a hobby thing, but it is also a job thing too, of like, when you're low income, like, I grew up with my mother who like worked her ass off to give us literally anything. And all I could think was like, man, she went through that same thing, and she didn't get to like make tea and feel better. You don't get to recover when you're in a position where like, you don't even like even making a cozy game for Reedon wasn't like really the solution to the problem. So it's the way, and I think this is what the story sort of boils down to, is like, you can't
boils down to, I like it.
I almost wrote that one down too. It boils down to like, you can't just recover and start again. You can't just like burnout is not a thing that you come back from and then intentionally burn yourself out again.
Right.
You
Like
know
it
what
ta-
you
it
did to
takes
get to this point.
It takes something from you.
Yeah,
Like, it
absolutely.
chips away at your ceiling or something. It does.
Yeah, and you
something
have to
there,
establish the breaks into your workflow. Like the only way you can be successful and creative and enjoy the work that you do, I feel like anyway, after a certain point is like you have to intentionally say, I'm going to stop for a little while.
Yeah.
Like you have to put those, I mean, you know, maybe better than the rest of us, especially last year, like if you don't implement those breaks, man, it's not exactly, so it's an interesting video game, man. I think it's one of those things where, it takes this team of people to make something that I think is this profound. And so, I mean, everyone experiences it, but just like the way that Reedon writes and that's sort of like self-aware, but also not like, isn't it funny how messed up things are? Like it's sincere and it's poking and prodding at very obvious things. Just the way that it's written is so beautiful and yet so funny and silly and dumb.
Is there voice acting in it, or is it?
There is a little bit. When Alta sits down to drink tea, that's all narrated. She sort of reads out her thoughts, and there's like a little bit of a narrative thing that comes along with the voice acting, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, for the most part, it's written, so you're just reading little blurbs from all the characters. There's one thing I want to mention that is not a gameplay thing before I stop talking about this game. There's a series of books that you can get from delivering letters, or like from a book club. I think you just get it automatically, that are called the Dirk Warhard series of books.
Is it like a Duke Nukem?
Yeah,
but it's like a comic book or something, or
it's just a book of just, it's just
Dirk
Warhard. I think it's Dirk. It might be Dirk or Dick. I can't remember. Warhard.
Wow.
It's probably one of the funniest things I've ever read. It's so
you can read
stupid.
it. Oh, great.
Yeah, it's like it's like 10 pages or something, 20 pages. All of the books that you can find, but like the way that it progresses, that individual beat is so funny. It's like genuinely one of the funny. There's a point where in the book the character just like makes people explode. I don't know, man. It's so stupid. I couldn't describe it. Just if you get a chance to play the game, please do not pass on the books. They are like the funniest fucking books I've ever read. Into the game or out. Exactly. Get dicked.
Man, oh man.
It's
Jeremy,
really
do you have any thoughts on this? I know you haven't played it, but just the themes rather.
It is a very interesting problem with so-called cozy games that like you get off working all day and you're like, I need to unwind. Let me play Stardew Valley. And I feel like it's very odd in the abstract that the way that a lot of us unwind and blow off steam from work is to find sort of like fake work to do.
Yes.
Or like Power Wash Simulator, like the popularity of, you know, it's like that meme of the German guy who gets off work driving a forklift and goes to play like Train Simulator. And it's it's such an odd thing that we do. And I feel like it's cool that someone is making a game that sort of interrogates that on some level, because you can't work your way out of burnout in some sense. I mean, you can sort of like task change. Like if you're burnt out on being a writer, you know, maybe woofing and getting like an organic farming job for a year might be a way to like confront your burnout or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's inviting a reinvestigation of your relationship to work. And I think that a lot of what that entails is sort of re-establishing a relationship to non-work things. And I think it's really hard. I mean, people talk about like postpartum depression after they finish games or large projects. There are a lot of people who talk about this with building houses too. People who build their own houses, they'll like spend 2 years building a cabin,
right,
and then finish and move in and be like, this is it, this is the moment. And then suddenly they're like, my life is devoid of meaning. Like I don't have the project anymore.
My grand quest is over.
Yeah, for sure. And it is such an interesting thing, because it's like we work so hard because I think in moments where we're working that hard, it's easy to like frame the mythos of what we're doing as like, and when I'm done, I will reap the rewards of all of this. It will all be worth the suffering, because in the end, you know, the suffering will yield fruit or whatever. But in some sense, that's kind of a lie we tell ourselves. Not because, I mean, there is like, you know, you got to pay your rent and like whatever. If you buy like a nice PC to game on and you got to get the money to do it, it's like there are fruits to the labor or whatever. But in some sense, I think the more important thing is establishing a relationship to meaningful work that is like sustainable in the sense that it is something that doesn't destroy you in the process, and sustainable also in the sense that that you are able to step away from the work. That like we get better. I think it's like a cultural issue as well, that we get better at like having sort of relationships to non-work things. Someone I think who talks about this really well is the Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a lot about this. Just ways of sort of like
how to sit, right? You got me into that book.
Yeah. And Pieces Every Step is another really good one. Thich Nhat Hanh is great. This isn't even like self-help literature or whatever. This is just like a legit ass Buddhist monk who, I mean, like called one of the most religious men in history by Martin Luther King Jr., like a contemporary of MLK. Wrote a lot about sort of like learning to disengage and create like empty space in our lives and how important and healing that is. And I think it is sort of a counterintuitive thing, because I think that like I feel this in myself, that there is like this constant urge to like, I get off work and I stand up and I stretch and I sit back down and I start doing game dev. Right. And it's like my way of unwinding is another form of productivity. And doing that constantly for the last few years has been illuminating in the way that it like it destroys you in some sense. Like you really need to force yourself to do nothing. And I think that's, it's like it's a weird sort of slippery thing to talk about, because how do you like do nothing? Like how do you learn to do, it's easy to learn to do things, but it is very hard to like unlearn that doing is the way you get somewhere.
Especially if you're the type of like OCD anxious weirdos that we all are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like fucking, I can't just be with my thoughts. No.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Thoughts
and it's
are
also
the enemy.
That's what I pay Spotify for.
That's what podcasts are for.
Yeah.
To drown out
Sorry,
the mind
listener.
For me.
The weirdest thing about it is that I think that
we're becoming the Wanderstop of podcasts. Reverse
no.
course. We didn't say that. Keep listening. Subscribe.
Patreon.com/Noclip.
Content.
And if you truly enjoy this podcast, you'll go outside right now. No, I think the weirdest thing about it is, and I won't ramble on forever about fucking meditation, whatever, but the strangest, as someone who's been meditating for a really long time, I go through periods of my life where I don't meditate for a long time, and the hardest meditation session you'll ever have is when you haven't meditated either ever or in months or in years or whatever. And so I think that like it is that resistance, that like friction of just sitting and being quiet for 10 minutes is the most difficult when you start trying to build that habit, like building any habit. But I think because it's sort of like it's a negation of productivity rather than like, it's my first time working out, and then you like work out and you're done with it and you're like, I felt good, it'll be easier next time. It feels way more difficult to just like sit with your thoughts and tell yourself it'll be easier next time. Because you're not building something, you're like, you're deconstructing something. And so I think that like, just like learning to recognize that as a practice that's worth doing is important, because I think it's very easy to like destroy yourself with productivity without realizing it, and that can also take the form of being productive as a form of leisure.
I think there's, I don't want to get too gendered about this, but I do think there is a challenge as well with like the male brain as it sort of, I feel like the women in my life have more natural connections to like other things in their lives that give them satisfaction or place. And in a way, I feel like a lot of men have this relationship with achievement for validation, that like we are sort of, society sort of views us as like good or bad based on how much we've achieved. Like I'm sure that is also the case for everyone, but it's something I've tried to tackle with over the past couple of years, not necessarily myself, but when I look at like young angry men on the internet, like and sort of what they're up against. And I think as is specifically like life has gotten harder for people when it comes to like getting jobs that they're satisfied with, or being able to like house themselves or kind of do anything. And I feel like there is this sort of thing, I see this relationship with work and self-worth and stuff is something that at least, and again, this might just be my perspective as somebody, from my age and my gender and everything, but I do see it as something that men struggle with more. Like, I think women struggle probably more in like getting validated within workplaces. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like sort of self-worth and stuff like that. I see this like sort of toxic connection that kind of exists there, and it's really hard to get away from in modern society, because so much of who we are and what we do is based on, you know, our place in the world and the work that we do, and, you know, how much money we earn and where we live and all this sort of stuff. Like, there's all these signifiers that sort of emerge from that. And so I think that it's really difficult, and like guilt, it makes people feel guilty to step away from their responsibilities. There's this great, like, I forgot what it was like a tweet or a Reddit post I saw ages ago, which was like so insightful into like how I think like boyfriends' brains work, if this makes sense, or like male brains work. It was in like a women's advice Reddit or something, and she was talking about how she sends her husband on quests, that like all men want are fucking quests. Like, they don't want to, like, if you don't ask them if they can go get you a coffee. Just say like, do you mind getting me a coffee? Because to the male brain, and again, sorry, I'm getting very gendered when I'm saying shit like that, so I'm not going to be a phrenologist by the end of this podcast. But it's like they don't want to like have to guess whether or not you want something. They just want to know that if they do the thing, they'll get the reward. If I get you a coffee, you'll appreciate it. You know what I mean? You'll like me. You'll love me. You'll be my partner. I was thinking about that, and that's definitely how my brain works, where I'm like, oh, input, output. I need to be like, put this much work in so I get this much money, and I need to do this so I get this much, and then I need to spend this much time with my family so I get this much love. And you know what I mean?
I think that's the power fantasy that cozy games tend to feed into also. Is
yes.
You know, when you're farming, like, you water the plants, you get a plant. You don't have to like worry about bugs eating your plants. Some games you do,
never
but like
blight.
Exactly. There's never a famine. It's never too hot. It's never too wet. It's always exactly right.
Yeah.
You always get something out. You give someone a gift, and now your love meter has gone up, and like Stardew or whatever, right? You always, that's the power fantasy of those games. Is it's not that you get to be the ultimate warrior who blasts everyone down with your big huge guns. It's like no, I do something. There's no politics. There's no they changed the laws here, and now I have to grow 400 chickens I don't like, or whatever.
I don't get hungry. I don't get distracted. Like Power Wash Simulator. Like it's just like this.
You never
like
run out
this,
of water.
What if I could work forever and never take a lunch break?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the power of
all the
fantasy.
energy. You don't ache. Exactly. Yeah. There's none of those barriers that exist in real life. Yeah.
It's this is something I've been thinking a lot about recently, because Danny, you mentioned this earlier, but I struggle really bad with OCD, and sometimes it's like totally fine, especially when I'm like on the road and camping. I never notice it, but when I'm home and working and like in my normal routine, it gets really bad sometimes. And something that kind of clicked for me recently is that that feeling okay with uncertainty is sort of like a weird sort of core issue that leads to my OCD. Whether that's like, you know, checking the gas knobs on the stove before I go to bed, where it's like, it's very easy to be like, well, yeah, how could I be okay with uncertainty if I could explode in the night?
Right.
Like, it's very easy to talk yourself out of that. But I think that a huge part of the core of that is learning to be okay with uncertainty. And I think that is sort of, it's like a weird sort of insidious underbelly of cozy games, is that I think that they are an experiential space in which you can exist and have those factors of uncertainty removed from the act of doing and yielding things.
It's like a safe space to work within.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally, like yesterday, right? Yesterday I had a lot going on this week, editing stuff, GDC's on, all this stuff's going on. We have a bunch of these goats, right? And they're pretty young. So I'm like bottle feeding them and making sure they're all right and all this sort of stuff. And one of them has like a little infection on the top of her head where they disbudded her. So they sort of burned the horns off, you know, before we adopted them or whatever. And it was like getting all pussed up. And I knew I had to bring these things out to like Vacaville. So it's like a hour and 20-minute drive out to get their second shots later on this week. So I texted the lady and I'm like, she's got a little bit of infection, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly it's like one of those quests. It's like I'm minding these goats and I'm making sure they're okay. And I'm getting this great like feedback from them. But now it's become, because of probably my anxiety, now it's like a problem that I need to fix. Like, I need to fix this so that the kid is okay. But also this is clearly something for me, so that I don't have to spend the next week before I go out to her again for the shots to like get this done. So I like texted her and was like, can you do it today? And she was like, yeah. And I loaded them all up in the car and drove out. And that's a really good example of like what you're talking about, where like that's what life is. Life is shit happens and you have to react. And I think people who have like anxiety and OCD probably are worse at. I could have just probably she would have been fine. I could have brought her out next week or late this week, but the way my brain works, I couldn't. I was like, can we do it now? Can we just, I need to solve this problem for myself kind of immediately. And you're right, like those types of things don't happen in kind of any game, right? They're all closed systems. I mean, some games they do. Online games are like, this is why I can't play Tarkov, because that's what that game is. It's just like shit going wrong that you didn't see coming, the video game. And I'm like, that's the opposite. That's the opposite of what I want to do. So yeah, I think you're totally right. Like there is something about like Power Wash. Why do people play Power Wash Simulator and not power wash their house? I guess it's a waste of fucking water for one, but it's probably because it's like a closed system. What could go wrong? Whereas like in Power Wash in real life, you might have left a window open you didn't realize, and then you come in after washing your house and your fucking living room soaked, or all these things.
Yeah, it is a bizarre sort of. I mean, that's why Wanderstop is interesting to me, is because it is a cozy game that is directly trying to. It's because you see sort of cozy games emerging now. They're like, oh, it's a cozy game where you're farming, but someone is a murderer in the town, and it's like
Murder Farm 2025.
Yeah, like, that's like a cool subversion of the cozy sim. But I think Wanderstop is attempting sort of the more interesting, like future version of what a cozy game can be, which is are cozy games good? Is this a force for good in the culture of games? Is this something that is like actually relaxing people and giving them an outlet, or is it sort of opiating them in some sense? Is it just
to be clear, the game is not attacking that. It's not like it gives you the opportunity, and I think is bringing on the conversation to think about that sort of thing, but it is not like at no point does a character turn to you and go like, you're bored, aren't you? Don't you think you should be cleaning your home? But still.
But you positing the question is sort of, that means it did its
exactly.
job,
It
right?
gives you the
fact that you're thinking about it means it did its
Yes,
job. That's
exactly.
It's not trying to preach to you. It sounds like it's not necessarily
it was very not
like,
prescriptive. It did not go like, hey, this is how you solve your burnout. It was just like, man, try being with yourself for a little bit more, of your life. The one other thing I want to say, this game, I've read so many reviews. It's so interesting. I don't agree with any of them, and I agree with all of them at the same time.
Okay.
It is like the weirdest game to criticize, because everything you say about it that's negative is sort of the point. It's like, it's immune to criticism, because if you get it, then you wouldn't hate it. And if you don't get it, then okay, that means that you like once you play the game, it's really, really good. I can't believe people who make great video games keep making great video games. What a shocker.
Wanderstop, $25 on Steam. It's only on Steam, right?
No, isn't it on other platforms?
It's on other stuff.
Yeah,
I could have swore.
I was looking it up. I think you get the platinum trophy just by completing the story. So
the trophies too are really weird. I don't know how it works on PlayStation, but on Steam, the achievements you get are nuts. I will read an earlier one that is not.
That sounds very on theme.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you're doing random things and, walking around planting plants and doing your thing, you get an achievement titled, What is Needed? He who is drawn simply to what is needed, to what is not realized. And the picture is a fire. Like, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Every achievement
I think
was
that's
like
from a Thich Nhat Hanh book.
Yeah,
I think that's the title of a Thich Nhat Hanh book.
Yes.
Do you know what it might be as well? Is that like they probably didn't want to put trophies in, but you need to if you're publishing on those consoles. So the Steam ones might be copies of them. So maybe that's what they're doing. They're sort of like, okay, well, we need to do it, but we don't really want to do it.
Kind of defeats the point.
Collect
more esoteric Steam awards, I would say.
Absolutely.
I think Steam achievements that are just like you got in touch with your inner child, and it doesn't say anything further.
It goes Wanderstop, Street Fighter 6, and then the rest of video games.
Yep.
Bring back more ones like that Naruto game where you get, remember what was it that you had? Avatar, the 200 gamer score points.
Dude, you weren't here. We joked about that. You weren't here. That's great.
On this podcast?
Yes.
Today?
Earlier, yeah.
On this, that's what you guys were talking about. The Avatar. Do you remember that thing where we passed? Oh no, that was on Citizen Game. We had a copy of that game and we did a thing we called Pass the Points, where we mailed a copy of that Avatar game to people, and then they could like get all 200,000 points, and then they had to mail it to somebody else. And we got like maybe 5 or 6 people before it went missing. So that's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Go play that. That and King Kong. Good times. Wanderstop. Let's go for the biggest sort of tonal shift we can. Frank, WWE 2K25. How
Does this make you want to go outside? This is no.
Well,
Makes them want to
and
go to Japan.
I
Hey.
have 7 wrestling shows I'm going to next month in Vegas.
What?
So
Damn.
Wait, 7 in Vegas.
Guys, WrestleMania weekend, whatever city it takes place in every single year, it turns into Mania weekend. So every single wrestler is in town because there's WrestleMania, but it also means there's 100,000 wrestling fans in the weekend. So
Whoa.
every promotion, every indie promotion, Japanese promotions fly all their wrestlers in, and it is just like 5 days of nonstop wrestling shows. So
What are you doing? What's on your hit list?
all right, so oh my god. Okay, I literally collapsed to my. I was in a Japanese bookstore in Little Tokyo on Saturday, and I collapsed to my knees because I'm not kidding.
No, I believe you.
Because I set up a Twitter alert for the Twitter account Spark Joshi Puroresu, which is like one of the indie women's Japanese wrestling promotions here based in America. So they announced a meet and greet with Starlight Kid of Stardom. And after I've gone to Japan 3 times, I've seen Starlight Kid live, but meeting Stardom wrestlers is nearly impossible because they are like the top company. So it's so difficult. But they're coming to America, and I have meet and greet, whatever. So I'm so excited. So Wednesday, I'm driving out to Vegas. That night, there's Dragon Gate USA, which is a Japanese promotion founded by Ultimo Dragon. They're hosting a show at the Palms Resort, and at that show, Starlight Kid and Izumi will be there, in addition to many other wrestlers. The next day, I'm going to Stardom at 12 p.m., Spark Joshi Puroresu at 5 p.m., at 11 p.m. is Marvelous.
Oh my God, 3 in one day.
Yes, which is Chigusa Nagoya's promotion. She was the Crush Gals in the 80s. The next day is Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling at 11 a.m. at the Palms Resort. That's Friday. And then Friday night is Joey Janela's Spring Break, which is going to have Sabu's retirement match.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You're
is
wasted
Sabu
on a
right
video
now?
game podcast. We got to put you on something. We got to get you on a wrestling cast.
Yeah, Sabu is now, he was born in 64.
60.
Yep. So
Wow.
it's his retirement match. And then...
Hope he makes it.
right?
Unlike that Darren Aronofsky movie.
right? Like, he is...
Spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably go through a table one last time, and that will be it.
It might be the last time he goes through anything.
Do it like Undertaker, just straight into the ground. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just
God.
like, yeah, boom.
And then the day after that show, Saturday, which I think will be my last one, is Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling versus GCW. So that's where they have all their all the American wrestlers versus the Tokyo Joshi Pro.
So you're not going to Mania?
No, fuck.
That's amazing. I love that. That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. Also, the Stardom event has the coolest name I have ever seen. American Dream 2025 in Sin City.
Yeah.
That is
Wow.
terrific. What a strong name.
I was joking with my friends yesterday where it's like, oh, this is great. Vegas is going to turn to Tokyo because I got to go to 7 wrestling shows for the weekend.
Dude,
so.
there's so many. I'm on like a wrestling. There's like a TNA one.
Mm-hmm.
There's Prestige. There's a bunch of other ones. There's also ones that I don't think I feel comfortable reading out. Mike, have you heard of Micromania?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Okay. Yeah. So you can imagine
put that one together.
what that is. So there's that sounds great. Anyway, let's talk about not any of the ones you're excited to go to. Let's talk about the big, boring, big box Disney version of wrestling.
Yes.
World Wrestling Entertainment, owned and operated by our favorite Minister of Education or whatever the fuck.
Oh my God, you're right.
Isn't this so weird? Like, what the carnies are running the city. What's happening?
That doesn't work. The Prime Minister of Canada is Mark Carney. You can't make that joke. Yes.
Wow.
Sorry, go on.
That's great.
So WWE 2K25 is out. The big thing that happened, it was like I completely tuned out of even wrestling. Talking about burnout, I tuned out of wrestling. Like I was super into wrestling from like the N64 video games through like the SmackDown PS2 games, which were phenomenal. By the 360 era, I just stopped watching wrestling because that's when they were making it very PG. John Cena was the top of the company. Totally. It was like, okay, whatever. And every now and then, every few years, my friends and I were like, oh, let's get the new 2K. Let's try the new wrestling game. And they always kind of sucked. Like, they just weren't for me. At some point, like, the 2K brand took over, and they made them more like sports sim as opposed to, like, arcade fighting games. And so I remember playing 2K16 and finding it really sluggish and just not fun. And then, so I just didn't bother. I remember 2K20 came out, and no one, like, not even like the hardcore WWE fans. It was such a, like, I mean, I think it also released during COVID, so I don't know. But no one liked that game. It was so bad that it forced them to take a year off.
Right.
So they didn't make 2K21. But even then, I ignored it. It wasn't until literally like 2 months ago when I was like, oh man, I can't get enough of WCW. I'm reading Bret Hart's book. Let me try 2K24. And oh my God, they've been slowly iterating this game for like the 2K series. I think they started like 2K since like 2K13. So I don't know. After 11 of these games, guys, this game is really fun. This
Hooray!
is I can't believe it.
Shout out to Novato's own Visual Concepts. They figured it out. They did it. Great job.
I'm blown away. And even different from like 2K24, which I played a lot of, 2K25, the current one. This is on, PS5, Xbox Series X. If you're playing it on PC, they consider that a last gen version, so it's stripped down. So
okay, like the Switch version, it's more like
it has parity with PS4 and Xbox. So that's why all the Steam reviews are like, what? Yeah. So, but I'm playing it on PS5. It's really fun. This game has so many modes, and so it's like pick your poison, pick what you want. The thing that I fell in love with, this is so dumb, but it's called My Faction. It is the way you play. It's like. You play your game and you're building your own faction, and you gain your roster by collecting cards. So this is it's very like gotcha, like you do missions and oh God, you got a card pack. Who are you gonna get? Oh my God, you got Dominic Mysterio, whatever. It's stuff like that. But
wait, is Dominic Mysterio Rey Mysterio's son?
Yes, and he is actually like he's in the company prominently. And so
619 baby.
Every time you play, you're getting like the digital currency, whatever, but there's all these, like, again, it's the input output. You're getting these objectives, and so you're constantly unlocking more wrestlers, and there's so much fan service in this game. So it's like, oh, John Cena 2002, whatever, like, and their specific outfit from one pay-per-view they wore 25 years ago. So it's just like you can unlock Bret Hart in here. You have all these WCW wrestlers.
Is there like a paid currency that you can?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I was wondering why they were doing this.
But it easily, you could, if you play the game and you do not have to spend any money on it. And so it's like, because I could do that. But then if I buy the card, then there's no reason to play, because also you don't have to do this mode. You could just go play, custom match, do whatever, and do that. But it's like, oh, there's like I said, the quest. Oh my God, you're building the faction. There's all these things to unlock. But it's almost like kind of like playing NBA Street or something, where there's a thing in it called World Tour Mode, and it's like, all right, Philadelphia, and it's like a little cartoon of Paul Heyman, like, think you're the most extreme wrestler? See if you can win these 5 table matches. We'll give you a card pack if you can't. Whatever.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. It's great. So it's like, it feels like a 2002 like PS2 arcade game where it's like, it's actually like, oh, this is really fun. And different matches on different stipulation where it's like you can only use bronze card wrestlers for this one, so you have to like.
Oh,
but
that's
it's like,
great.
But so it forces.
Out comes Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah. So it forces you to use wrestlers you normally wouldn't, and like there's a daily live event. So it's like, oh, today's Iron Sheik's birthday. If you can beat him in a submission match, you'll get a card pack. So it's
I hope you're fighting Hulk Hogan in that one.
Oh, so there are I kill the fuck the Hogan. But Hulk Hogan's in this game, but NWO Hogan's in this game. There's Razor Ramon. There's NWO Scott Hall. So it's like there's so much fan service in these, and like you can, and that's the nice thing is you can tell the people making the game they are also wrestling fans, and I know WWE has so much creative control over everything, but it's like it like. It's good. It's really, really pleasant. And
old wrestlers in it. I see the trailer here has, I think that's Yokozuna, is it?
Yeah. So the big feature with it, that's My Faction Moon. And there's oh my God. Bret Hart's book has so much, he just talks shit on every single wrestler ever, but reading Bret Hart's book taught me so much about Yokozuna. Whatever. But
is Yokozuna a shithead?
No, but it's just, well, it's like when he was, because he was a Samoan, but he was billed as he was billed from Japan. So when he went to Japan, nobody liked the Japanese.
Of course.
And because Yokozuna is seen as the high rank of sumo, but he played it as a heel, and Japanese audiences are like, no, that's an honorable thing. What are you doing? And so the wrestlers would be so stiff with it, whatever. So
funny.
But the big
that's why Rikishi was the way he was. They're like, we're gonna avoid that one.
Yep, and Rikishi's so it's funny. You can play as like young Rikishi in this. So every 2K game, the WWE 2K games has like what they call their showcase mode. So it's like. And I feel like in years past, they did like, oh, John Cena showcase. You're going to go through every big match of Cena's career. Last year, which I talked about in the podcast like a few months ago, was like the road to WrestleMania. Here's all these big WrestleMania matches. This year, it's the Bloodline. And you have Paul Heyman. Right. He's literally talking to the camera. There's an opening line that's like, and now today, you, the expert gamer of the WWE universe, are going to play through the Bloodline. And it's like,
wait, is it just him?
Yes, it's
like
Paul,
FMV.
And yes, it feels like a Sega FMV game. Paul Heyman sitting there with a puka shell necklace, and it's like, are you ready to step into the ring as Roman Reigns, your tribal chief, in the island of relevance? It's like, this is awesome. Like, Paul Heyman is the greatest salesman in wrestling. He's so it's so the bloodline is you're going through all this. There's like 3 Samoan families. They're all related. Like, you know, The Rock's a part of it. Roman Reigns, Yokozuna, all these wrestlers, and you're playing through all their matches. But they tell you, like, this is what was happening in wrestling in 1993, and they use archival footage, and it's like, oh, it's an interactive documentary, and it's hosted by Paul Heyman, and it's like, this is amazing. So it's really, really cool. And if you play the showcase mode, you unlock those wrestlers to use in You're My Faction. So you unlock a Rikishi card, whatever. So it's generally cool. Then there is the My Rise, which is the story mode, which is so cheesy. But what makes it cool is you can use custom wrestlers in it. So the big thing I love with these games every year is just diving into the community creations. So like day 1, the game had like they had like the premium deluxe 7-day early edition.
Oh, yeah.
I held
all
off.
The sickos got it early.
Yep. And so
make
that
the freaks.
Right. So they could start grinding their My Faction so they could have a leg up in the ranked matches, whatever. Day 1, you search creating comedy, whatever, community creations. Custom content community creations.
I think we broke Frank.
Yeah. No, I'm so excited. There's so
it's great.
I genuinely love this. It's great. I've been playing these WWE 2K games nonstop for the last month while reading the Bret Hart book, while listening to the Nitro audiobook, while booking wrestling shows, while also going to wrestling shows in LA. It's like it's 24/7. WWE, yeah, whatever.
Dude, you gotta meditate on wrestling. You gotta slow down. You gotta burn out.
No, yeah. Again, I'm gonna meet Starlight Kid in a month. This is it. I'm like, you know. All right. So, custom content community creations. Day 1, there's already people making Stardom characters. There's already people making WCW characters. So I've downloaded Mina Shirakawa from Stardom. I downloaded Steve Mongo McMichael from 1997 WCW. And they are my main characters in the My Rise story mode. And it's like, there's these cutscenes and feels like Tony Hawk, where it's like you have the wrestlers doing their voice acting, and it's like, "Hi, I'm CM Punk. Nice to see you." It doesn't say the name, but it's
great voice acting.
Yeah,
as well.
that's how it is. It's very like PS2. It's very like one line. They did one take. Hey, I'm Triple H. Nice to meet you to the company. It's like so like it's like low effort, but that's why it's so funny. But they actually got the wrestlers, and so. I don't know. So it's just so fun seeing going through these story modes, and it's filled with fan service, and it's so cheesy, and that's what wrestling is. It's cheesy and like, I don't know. So that's the story mode. That's great. And if you beat the story mode, you unlock cards to use in My Faction. So every mode speaks to one another, and it's just there's so much stuff to get in here. And what I'm excited about it is like starting this game at the beginning of the year, and it's like every week there's new matches to get to unlock more things, and they're gonna be updating stuff, and like. There's already DLC stuff planned. New Jack will be a DLC character, which no one thought would happen because he literally tried to kill people in the wrestling ring. But
who's the most problematic wrestler that's in it at the moment? I see
Hogan.
China's in here. Oh yeah, Hulk Hogan. Yeah, okay.
But yeah,
no Chris Benoit. He's not made it back in.
No, but there are WCW or there are like whatever the community.
Just don't, it's okay. It's all right. We got it.
Yeah,
Quancy.
Yeah.
Hey Frank, what do you call the area where people can upload their own characters?
Custom content community creations.
Yes.
Yeah. So and then even on Twitter, I follow a Twitter account called WCW Rewind, which is like a group of people who are just making WCW created characters. I found a guy in Japan who is making the entire New Japan Pro Wrestling roster and uploading it. So it's
amazing.
So if it doesn't matter, like even if you don't
like
watch
SpongeBob or Bender or any of that,
all the weird stuff is in there. Like I mean, the Costco dad is in there, the Rizzler. Like people are making literally every.
Of course, he is. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
like any AEW wrestler you want is in there, and you can upload.
Oh, is that dude the TikTok guy who fuck this shit, who jumps on stuff?
Superhuman. Yeah, he made his own. I don't know if he uploaded his own, but people are making Superhuman.
I want to have him fight Doink the Clown.
Yes. So Doink is officially in the thing, I think. But people will probably be making Superhuman.
Yes.
Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope were already like custom uploaded. So it's like, and then every week there'll be more and more. The one thing that's again crazy is because they considered PC last gen. PC is not in the creative content pool as Xbox and PS5. So it sounds like all the real good stuff is PS5 and Xbox. If you're on PC, you're being shared with PS4 and Xbox One or whatever the hell they call that. So I don't know. So I feel bad if you're on PC because it didn't used to be like that. It used to have parity with all. So that's like the big major red flag. But I'm playing on PS5. I love it. The game is really good. And the like last thing, there's other modes I'm not talking about. There's like a custom, like they call it My GM mode, which is like you get a fantasy book your own promotion. It's all like budget spreadsheets and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
But it and there's online mode, but playing online wrestling games is just going to make me hate whoever. That's
that
not
sounds
fun.
bad.
Because it comes down to specific reversal window timings, and that's not fun.
Winning's not the point.
And then in the My Faction mode, there's a thing called Faction Wars, which turns your thing into like a roguelike. So like as you beat matches, you get like stat boosts, you get armor, you get like all these things. You unlock wrestlers you can use in your run. They literally call it Faction Run, and like that's how you can earn even more digital currency to unlock characters. Because I'm trying to grind and unlock Bret Hart because he's 40,000 whatever My Faction points, but I will get him soon enough. But so yeah, this game is so fun if you're a wrestling fan. The actual combat, it's fast, it's fun. There's like a really fun rhythm to it. There is a lot of like reversal input timings. There's rhythm games when you get pinned. You have to like tap up on the right thumbstick to escape the pin submission. It's really fun. Again, they've been practicing and iterating this every single year. And 2K25 hits the sweet spot for me. I think again, like Burnout, if you haven't played these games in years, oh my God, it's fun to dive into it. So I really recommend it. And if you're on the fence, they do this like clockwork. During WrestleMania weekend, the game will be like 25% off. So if you want to wait like a month, then it'll be like at least $10 off. But they do it that's what I would always do with these is I would wait till WrestleMania weekend and then get it discounted. But I am so excited that I dove in now. But and then the big feature, they finally have intergender wrestling, so you can finally have men and women wrestlers together, and so you can literally do whatever custom thing you want. They
didn't have that. They didn't even have like tag team or.
They had a weird tag thing mode where it's like if once the woman wrestler was tagged in, the male AI had to immediately tag in. You could not do in between. Now, as even part of the story mode, like the story mode is very much like, all right, you guys are going to be the first intergender tag team champion, whatever. So it's like they're very much putting that feature in your face. But it's great because like if you want to do silly custom matches, now you can just do whatever. And then again, there is also in the game, not custom, there is Korakuen Hall is in the game. They call it Japan Hall, but that's the wrestling venue in Tokyo that I'm obsessed with. So it's like Japan Hall is in the game, and it's like, oh my God, they actually so just the fact that that's in there shows that like, oh, the people making this actually care about wrestling. So very, very delighted by this game.
Awesome stuff. WWE 2K25. Maybe pass on the PC version, but what were you playing? PS5? Xbox?
Yeah, PS5.
PS5. Wow, take
For
that.
the Chivos. Got to get the trophies.
Frank doesn't play unless it's Game Pass. He's like, I'm not spending money over there.
That's
why Microsoft are in so much trouble.
Yeah.
Maybe. Jeremy, you played we have a real. This is a real.
If you wanted to understand what this podcast is like and everyone's tastes, this is the episode.
This was
the archetypal episode.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Should I read the title?
You introduced this. This is on. This is on you.
This is on you. You've made this bed. Now lie in it. I played a game by a developer named it's Natalie Lawhead. I hope it's pronounced Natalie. It has a TH in there, so apologies if it's Nathalie, but I think it's Natalie Lawhead who goes by the name Alien Melon. And this game is called Individualism in the Dead Internet Age, an anti-big tech asset flip shovelware rant manifesto. And rant is crossed out. It started as a rant and it became a manifesto. This is a I don't know. This is like a playable essay, I would say. This is a really interesting sort of use of the medium of games to do something that is distinctly non-gamey but very much about games. This is sort of like a meta game about games. It does a lot of really interesting things. I'm not going to talk too deeply about it because it's very short. It's like 30 minutes or whatever. Okay. So I want to talk about sort of like top level reasons why I think it's interesting and not spoil too much.
How do you play it, I guess?
Yes. So this is a first person sort of like environments that you walk through. One of the most interesting things, I read an interview with the developer, and one of the most interesting things I think about this is that this game is very much about where like personal computing was decades ago and where it is now, and sort of the trajectory from this very like utopian sort of like open-ended,
hopeful.
Yes, exactly. Like anyone can make software. You can do it at home on your computer. They used to send out like computing magazines used to have like code in them that you could just copy line for line and be like, now you can play like you can make Galaga on your own computer for free. And it was just this sort of like infinite potential horizon of like computing is the future and anyone can do it and it's egalitarian. And then the game sort of draws this arc from that to now, which is like, it's, you know, there's all these like creative suites of software that are subscription based. It's expensive. There are a lot of sort of like gatekeeping measures in place that make it more difficult to share. Back in the day, you know, I was thinking about the Heroes of Might and Magic video we did and how John Van Canegum made his early games and then just like put an ad in like an Apple computing magazine and was like, I'll mail you a floppy disk. Yeah. And he did it himself. Or like Richard Garriott, when he did Calibeth, his early dungeon crawler was like, I think he was like 19 or 21 or something, working in a computer
game
store.
Did he or something?
He sold so the store he worked at let him sell copies of the game at and if you've never seen the physical version of a Calibeth, it is like it is an aesthetic that is so absent from games now, where it's like, I don't know, it looks like something like if J.R.R. Tolkien was like a homeless guy or something. Like it's like it's so like crunchy and textured and like homebrewed. It's so cool, and it's very like DIY and sort of like punk rock software. But anyway, so you know, this game is essentially about how we got from there to here, and it's a game made by someone who has been doing software as an art form for a very long time. And they illustrate with a lot of personal examples, but also there are like, as you work through this, you'll walk up to these big sort of like art installations, like these big like screens and weird props and stuff. And if you interact with them, it will open links on your browser for like real world sources. Oh, and
crazy.
Stuff. So like you'll go up and
you mentioned this is like video or essay. Is there voiceover or is it text? Oh, there is. Wow.
So
okay.
Hilariously, there are sort of like little like coin pickups on the ground that are sometimes different shapes. And when you walk over them, there will be like a very sort of Microsoft Sam voice that's like, in the old internet, that sounded like RFK. That doesn't sound like Microsoft Sam. But yeah, so it's sort of like narrated, but go at your own speed. So you can kind of resume the narration by moving forward, or you can, if you see something that interests you, you can click on it and then be taken to, you know, articles, old news articles and things like that to learn sort of more. So it's it's sort of like an a la carte. However deep you want to go, you can go deeper or less deep. But I think sort of like one of the most illustrative examples I think for me was this developer was talking about making sort of like anti-productivity software, and I thought that was such a hilarious like a way to illustrate this issue. And they gave a couple examples of that they had made this zine maker software back in the day that a lot of people had resonated with. That was it wasn't like efficiency software where it was like, here's the clean template and like everything lines up perfectly. It was like zine making software where the text lines were like off center and crooked and like everything was so fucked up, but it like the software itself had texture. And I think that as history has progressed, I think that there is more of a push to have tools be a transparent window that like the another example they give is KidPix. Like a lot of people remember KidPix not because it was Photoshop, because it was like amazing for making like whatever masterpieces, but because it had its own characteristics, its own flavor, its own texture. And sometimes those things that are weird and nuancy and rough around the edges aren't hindrances to the end goal of what the software is for. They are the actual flavor.
It's like mono software now, where like there is one software for doing video, there's one software for making pictures, there's one software for compressing files, whereas or playing music, whereas back then there was like there was so many rushing to market that you had all this weird like little pockets that they were sort of like filling in here and there or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Another example they gave of a piece of software that they made was this thing. I think it was called Electric File Monitor, and it would randomly accuse files on your computer of being viruses, and it would put them in virus jail, and it would say like, this document is potentially a virus. We flagged it as potentially a virus, but it was just completely random, and you would have to let the files out of virus jail. And it's like, it's just so fucking, it's like software as a form of personal expression, not just as as like a tool for getting things done. I mean, this ties into what we were talking about with productivity and like Wanderstop and stuff. It's like there is a relationship to art that I think can very easily slip into like you know, you might as well just be like mail it, like faxing out like the files and reports and stuff. Like it's like if you're just going through the motions, it loses some of the magic that is the reason that people get into like creating things in the first place.
Dude, I even find it with Patreon that like Patreon is such a hands-off, slick utility for me to like basically get money from strangers, that like if you let that just be the case, it can actually be like very alienating. Whereas like I want to know the people without getting parasocial about it. Like I like knowing the interests and thoughts of the people, but because there's no friction anywhere, you don't create the moments to do that. So you have to like instigate the moments to do that. Like make a Discord and hang out with people or do, you know what I mean? It's weird how, there's all these byproducts that you get for free sometimes when there's a bit of friction between the software, but you kind of, when you miss those, you don't miss them because it's annoying sometimes to have to jump through hoops or fix that or do this and do that. And there's lots of like, you know, I don't miss making websites on Dreamweaver, you know what I mean? Like I'm glad that things have gotten better, but yeah, because there's this lack of friction and thought, you sort of, you lose something in that exchange, or you know, an element of in culture or something that's gone, that doesn't exist anymore. Which is why, like 10 years ago, the internet feels like the same as now. You know what I mean? Whereas when you go back then, it's like it felt like the internet had a wallpaper or something, or had a smell. Yeah, you know,
totally. That's a great way of putting it. It's like you know, in our quest to optimize our lives, we have lost something along the way that maybe we didn't know we had in the first place. Where like if you can go to Safeway and get tomatoes at 1 a.m. because you want tomatoes at 1 a.m, that's great. And like, that is a personal freedom that we value, but lost somewhere along the way was the relationship you had to like Tomato Guy.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and it's like, maybe it was fucking annoying because like Tomato Guy is like, yeah, I'm like going to visit my parents today. You're like, bro, I need tomatoes today.
And it's 1 a.m. Like, come on.
And it's 1 Stop calling me at 1 a.m. Fucking, if you need to make a lasagna, fucking just let me know ahead of time. But you're like losing the relationship you have to the people who make things, and I think it's illustrative of a similar thing, where in our quest to optimize and sand off rough edges and make everything sleek and efficient, we've lost some of what makes those things special. So it's a really interesting game experience. One of the things that I thought was really cool about it, that I started talking about this earlier and I cut myself off, was the whole thing is made with very high fidelity assets.
Yeah, I was about to say, this does not, like the way I would expect a indie game of this nature to be would be like, not, this game looks like it's made in Unreal or something.
Yes. So that was an intentional choice by the developer. I looked a little bit. I didn't want to like this spoil. I wanted to have my own interpretation, but I wanted to look a little into the person who made this. Right. And one of the things that they referenced was that the idea of using like Unreal Asset Store high fidelity assets is sort of like a in the way that a lot of like AAA games will watch what indie games do and sort of co-opt their ideas into mass market ideas. This developer wanted to take these like high fidelity AAA assets and co-opt them into like a punk rock subversive DIY game. And I think that that's really funny, because I think we inherently think about like jank and low poly as sort of punk rock and guerrilla and DIY.
Yeah.
But the idea of having, there's one part where there's just like a giant fucking Razer mouse that's like insanely high poly, and you can just like jump up on it and walk around. And I was like, this is so funny, because it's like,
that's great.
It's like making fun of those things or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's saying like, does this make you feel anything? Look how fucking many fucking triangles are in this mouse. Does that make you feel anything? And
You're like, a little bit.
Yeah, I do like the mouse. I do like the big toy mouse. But the other thing that's interesting about, I mean, there's a million things that are interesting, but the last thing I'll mention is that this game is not on Steam.
Okay,
and
yeah.
All right. I'm not playing it anymore.
It's not on Game Pass. It's not on Steam. And the fact that it's not on Steam is referenced in the game because this game contains things that literally the message that this developer got from Steam rejecting it for Steam application is screenshotted in the game itself.
Oh, funny.
As a way of talking about this like gatekeeping that goes on, essentially, because the game contains screenshots of like Valve IP in an attempt to make commentary on it. And Valve is like, well, you can't just like have Portal in your game that's
And you're
not
like,
Portal.
does fair use not exist in video game?
Yeah,
brothers?
so it
you
gets-
see some
it
of the
gets-
stuff that's on the Steam store, and you're not letting it on because there's a picture of like
exactly,
fucking
yeah.
Wheatley in it. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So it gets into some really interesting discussions about games and gatekeeping and sort of like corporate gatekeepers for art mediums and what it means to have these. It's very convenient to have Steam, but maybe they should take less than 30% from smaller games,
Yes,
and
agreed.
maybe they should let like weirder
Preach.
fucking shit out there. So I don't know. It's a really interesting game about games, and I highly recommend it. Individualism in the Dead Internet Age by Alien Melon on itch.
Available on itch. There you go. Jesse will
And it's
do
free.
the work. You'll get the
Pay what you want.
Pay what you want.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Throw the
Pay what
developer
you
some
want.
money.
Always.
If you like
I
it.
don't think I've ever downloaded anything for free with pay you what you want. I'm always like, oh man,
You gotta give him $1.
Gotta
Well,
give.
I
him
got
some.
$1.
I usually give
I
like
like-
$5. I have such guilt with tipping though. I over tip. That's not me saying like I'm such a cool guy. I have like it's like a problem I have where I need to like stop doing this shit. I'm wasting patrons' money here. I need to.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. I think it's
Love
going to a good place. If it's,
Yeah.
I think the patrons would want it to go to like independent.
Hey, you don't know what
game
he's tipping,
makers
man.
and
He did
stuff.
not say
Bars,
where
a lot of
where that money's
bars.
going. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, independent alcohol servers.
Sorry, yeah. And yes, of
Yeah.
course, various gentlemen's clubs, I'm sure as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You can
Throwing
hide your
out
fez, but
Patreon
we know
bucks.
it's real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of $1, I do $2. I get them especially from the bank,
I throw Sacagawea coins up on stage.
I've got the ones with Ronald Reagan on them up here. It's nice. Just throw them out.
Quick breaking news. Assassin's Creed Shadows reviews have been coming in as we've
Who
been
cares? Just kidding. I
live.
care.
It's reviewing remarkably well.
Right, yeah. What do you?
It's-
Can we all
people
guess
are-
the number?
That's cool.
'Cause I'm
I mean,
sure
I
everyone
don't
wants
look at
to.
Metacritic because it sucks. We used to work with Metacritic and fuck all that shit. But yeah, lots of 8, 9s, 10s, some other ones as well. But it seems people are saying like it's kind of like a much needed high point for the series. Like they've been trending in this direction. It seems it's the 16th installment. That is absolutely insane.
Is it one of those things where people didn't really play or give a shit about Valhalla, and they're kind of just reviewing it based off what they remember Odyssey being?
I
like?
doubt it.
Or-
Like these are
no,
all.
you think it's bigger?
Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't. I haven't read the review, so I don't know. But
Can you
like,
just read the
I really
blurbs
wanted to get
and
into Valhalla. and I
Condense
really
everyone's
couldn't.
opinions into a statement on this podcast.
Exactly.
Can
Yeah.
you
Can I
not do
ask
that?
AI what
Yeah.
if I should play this
does
game and
Copilot
how it'll
think?
make me feel?
Yeah.
No, but I'm pleasantly surprised. I think I wasn't. I don't know. That I'm not a lot of that Assassin's Creed stuff has appealed to me in recent years, and I really tried to get into Valhalla, and there was just too much shit going on. Who knows? Maybe it's the same thing where it'll just be like a big world full of UI elements, and I'll be like, nope, not for me. This
So,
isn't my type of game
The
anymore.
thing
but-
that I like, and I'm not trying to like back up Ubisoft, although I
Hmm.
feel like I have done that a lot. The thing that I like about their open world games, and I don't think they get enough credit for, is that you could play those games without any UI markers. And they do a really good job of describing how to get around in the areas and like.
It's kind of the UI is sort of like the easy thing I can point to that sort of describes this wider issue I have.
Yeah.
And it even goes down to like when I touch the controller, the animation system in that game means that they have to start walking, which means it's a little bit later. Everything in that game has like 10% too much video game attached to it. Like the way you talk to people, the way the camera works, the way combat works, the quest markers, the way the animation is. It's like I cannot get away from the fact that I am playing a video game when I play those Assassin's Creed games. And and I love all the like the first 4, massive fan of all those games, Brotherhood and 2 and all that sort of stuff. And the thing I hated about those games was all the Animus shit. So I clearly have a thing where I just like, if I'm playing your historical video game, I want to feel like I'm in
Don't
that
remind
part of
me.
history. And I never do. It always feels like I'm playing a simulation, like even to the point where I play games like Atomfall, which is clearly not a real place, but I believe I'm there. So I don't know, maybe it has something to do with the fact that like, it might be like an uncanny valley issue with historical games where like, oh, if they're actually trying to be historical and feel accurate, that they sort of never can. It's like they can never get to these event horizon because, the closer they're always like just almost there. And
It doesn't help that they have that meta layer of like the Ubisoft store pops up when you hit the start button, or like
100%,
you get a
yes.
Ubisoft challenge points. It's like, just let me have the achievement, brother. It's okay. I don't need 45 points so I can unlock a Ezio skin. All right, let's move on.
100%. Yeah, there's so much of that, and it's just it's a, I don't know what it is about it, but it's like nails on a chalkboard to me in terms of enjoying video games, and those games are habitually doing it. So hopefully, I'm
just say
I'm
you hate
optimistic.
Yasuke and let's move on. All right, just
Which one? Who's
Black
Yasuke? Is
Samurai
that-
or whatever is
The Black
this?
Samurai.
the
Yeah.
Black Samurai? I don't.
Just it's
yeah,
woke.
I'm not gonna.
No,
I'm not gonna get into that. But I don't know enough about Japanese history either way to say anything. But
whatever. It's those games are silly. We're
that's
just having
true,
fun.
But like, especially with Japan, because remember the amount of fuss that was made about how it's more of a Western studio making a game about Japan is the issue I have with like being respectful to blah blah blah. And honestly, I'm not getting into this because I don't fucking have enough knowledge about it. But like when what was the game that came out? The Ghost of Tsushima came out. Like that was a big part of that was them going on and on and on about respecting the subject matter. And I think, and having the Kurosawa mode and all that sort of stuff. So I do think there is something to that. And obviously they play fast and loose with a lot of like,
it's a
Vikings
flaming
and
unicorn
Greeks and stuff like that. You know what I
whenever
mean?
You fight gods. Yeah.
Is there a flaming unicorn?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can buy it for
Valhalla?
2,000 Ubisoft points.
Oh my God. So I don't know. They've obviously had a nightmare promoting this game for a litany of
handful
reasons.
of reasons, yeah.
Many of which have absolutely nothing to do with them. So that at least that's funny. That's going to piss off a bunch of weirdos. So that the game is that people are liking the game.
Oh, they'll spin it. They'll be like, this
the
reviewer
woke.
likes, exactly. Works for Sweet Baby, Sweet Baby.
Sweet Baby.
I'll stop. I'm bringing it up. I'm doing it to myself.
I can't not if the game is made by Sweet Baby.
Oh,
doesn't
no.
work.
Oh, brother.
Anyway, the trolls keep on trolling. You know what time it is. Okay, with that Limp Bizkit reference, let's quickly talk about one other one. Jesse, this is a long podcast. Expelled. What's this thing?
Yeah, I'll give a quick on this because I haven't played
This
that,
is on
that much of
Steam.
it.
The
It is on
sellouts.
Steam. I know, what a bunch of corporate
Corpo
suits.
bootlicking
Yeah.
fuckers.
Actually, Inkle are quite. They
Send me a floppy.
Seem like quite a fun company. I don't know what their structure's like or how they work. But no, Inkle, if you don't know anything about their games, they've been making stuff for like 14, 15 years, commercially anyway. They make a software called Ink, which is like Twine, their own version of that, which is really cool. But they've made games like 80 Days, Heaven's Vault,
yes,
Highland
80 Days
Song.
is great.
Yeah, 80 Days is awesome. And their
Pendragon?
last-
I remember that.
Pendragon, yep. The sorcery games, the conversions of those books, which are really good. They've done a lot of really great interactive fiction stuff in this industry. Like, I think
Beautiful
they're
art.
some of the best writers, I think, in the whole, like, in terms of fun, challenge, the way they get like over the top with it, how much writing there is, how many games they put out in their time is like just wild to think of in terms of like the words on the pages. But Expelled is, again, quick brief thing because I haven't played too much of it, but I think it's really cool. It's their second in, I guess, what they're now calling the Overboard series. The first game was like, there's a death on a ship. Did you do it? Did you not do it? You have to sort of convince people.
I remember that.
Work your way
Yeah,
through it. Yeah. So I would describe this as like Bully meets Hitman if it was a story game. So like the way that you play Expelled is you work through it very quickly. The tutorial is like you're a girl who's going to a private school. It's it's got all the fun British names that I would butcher. I'm not even going to bother trying to say. Miss Mulligatawny, I think, is the name of the school. She's like the prefecture. It's got a great art style. But
She's
again, the
prefect,
Hitman thing,
not the prefecture. She's
Sorry.
not a region of Japan. She's a prefect. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I thought I said prefect. Didn't
I thought you said prefecture. That might be-
Prefecture would be funnier. Yeah,
like
she's my
she's
favorite.
Miami prefecture. Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that might have been my brain. I did just record Shift F1 before this, and we often talk about prefectures. So it
There
might
you
have just
go.
been that.
It's all mixed up. Thanks to all of our, what are the Shift F1 patrons called?
Title sponsors.
Thanks to all our title sponsors, Cameron Ladd. Yeah, so the Hitman thing that I'm talking about, the way that the game works is like basically it's a loop of time, but it's not like narratively a loop. It's just a girl explaining what happened to her while she's at school. And you almost maybe like Assassin's Creed might be a good comparison. You work through these moments until you desync and you get expelled by the teacher, but you're trying to progress the story so you can figure out sort of what happened. And you'll unlock narrative beats as you keep playing. So you'll start off and like this girl gets pushed out of a window from the top of this tower, and it's like this old stained glass window, and she falls. Does she die? Does she not die? You sort of figure that out really quickly. But the way that the story plays out is is just like unlocked through different dialogue choices. So like you'll say, I'm gonna go after that, I'll go to church, and like we'll do the thing, and she'll have a little announcement, we'll have the assembly for the morning, and then from there things unlock. Or you get caught by the teacher, and like just the way that you unlock different beats, you have different objectives that you can go through that maybe don't push you forward to the next arc of the story, but give you a new point to pull on in different parts of the story as time goes on. Time moves whenever you make a decision as well. So like you'll start at 7:30 and then, I click this dialogue option, a minute passes, so on and so forth. So in sort of real time, things can happen in certain areas. You'll see where characters are on this little map that you select. It's like very, very fun. In the same way that all of their games work, it's one of those ones where you want to play it over and over. I think I've played a Highland Song like 4 times.
And the story is kind of the thing that's dragging you through as well. Like the story is the thing that you're on, like that's your motivation. Is like it's
watching it unfold is really, really fun. It's like there's so many different layers to the way things can go, because you can like you could go bother your roommate and wake her up, but then you learn like, she needs to find her slippers. But before you wake her up, if you check under the bed, the slippers are there. So now I want to replay, move her slippers and see what happens. Or like,
nice.
It sounds, the way I'm describing is very like juvenile, and that's sort of the mood of the game. The player character, when you make dialogue options, there's regular options, then there's one that turns up your like little shit knob, like you're just a little shit. Like you can see it's like +4 to being a little asshole. And you click on that one and it's great because like, okay, now I know I'm being a jerk, and like how does that impact the story? How many more options does that give me throughout the rest of the plot? So I'm just in the beginning part. I think it looks like there's maybe 4 or 5 other sections. It's very cool. I'll talk on it more next week, but I think this is just another one of Inkle's games that I absolutely adore. I think they make some of the coolest stuff.
Expelled. It's about $15 I think at the moment on Steam.
Yep.
I think it's a bit of a sale on it.
Can I just read the content warning for this on Steam, because it is the most diverse list of descriptors. The mature content description: this game contains mild references. Mild references is a very funny way to lead up such an intense list. This game contains mild references to suicide, abortion, evangelism, gym class, medicinal drugs.
Wait, gym class? Yeah. I thought you were going to say Jim Crow.
No, gym class, witchcraft, blood drinking, live burial, devil worship, fornication, blasphemy, and secondary school education.
I'm on board. Let's go.
Content warnings on the title screen as well. I didn't know any of that. I didn't read the Steam description, so I was like, what am I about to play?
We should do content warnings for the podcast because it would be insane.
Oh my God.
Week.
It would like just be a whole
killing.
book.
The frog.
Yeah.
Frog, shut up, by the way. I swear I didn't kill that frog. I would not kill a frog.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Yeah. Enjoy your frog legs.
Oh my God. So many of them. I was about to say escargot, but that's not frog legs. That was a bunch of games. Expelled, Wanderstop, WWE 2K25, and Atomfall, and Individualism in the Dead Internet Age. Hey, Frank, what's the name of that area in WWE 2K5 where you can make
custom content community creations?
Yes.
Damn.
CCC.
That's why we pay him the big bucks.
Sure is.
I don't pay him anything.
That, and also he gets us some emails. I think we passed on it last week, so we better dive into them this week. Frank, what we got?
Yes, thank you. People can send us emails, podcasts@noclip.video, or in our Patreon Discord in the podcast chat channel. This first one is kind of in line with what we talked about. Cartooner on Discord wrote, the latest Triple Click episode talks about cozy games like Stardew Valley and Wanderstop, where you're escaping burnout but still technically working. They bring up how coziness doesn't always mean a lack of tasks that need to be done. It can mean different things to different people. That got me thinking about a recent episode where he talked about how these games aren't always as relaxing as they seem. So, what games do you actually find relaxing? For me, Death Stranding comes to mind. Not so much the gameplay, but the presentation, music, atmosphere. It all just works.
Ooh.
That's good.
You guys got any come to mind?
Yeah. Last couple of weeks, I have been playing religiously Picross on my Nintendo 3DS XL. I love this game. It's like there's nothing to it. There's no guessing. You just follow the rules, and I get why people do crosswords now, but you don't have to know hard words that have 14 letters in them. You just have to know how to count. It's really fun.
With mobile stuff, I've been playing a lot of chess, the chess.com app on my
Oh, nice.
Because I've been teaching my daughter how to play chess, and we were playing chess against each other.
What's
and
your rank?
Like, I should play some chess. No, I'm just whatever.
Yeah, I guess you're just relaxing.
7,000 or something.
Wood League.
Yeah, exactly. Not good. For sure. I mean, my go-to if I'm like just trying to like burn time is usually like FIFA or Formula One, like games that I can just kind of lizard brain my way through. Like that's but I tend not to. Like often when that happens, it's usually like a bit of a call for help for me of like, maybe maybe don't do that. And I think that's the other thing as well, not to constantly be going on about the whole being a dad thing, but like I tend to not play games just to pass the time. Like I don't know, maybe I spend more time on YouTube on my phone for that, which is probably worse maybe, but usually like now it's kind of like back when I used to like have a full-time job and then come home in the evening and have precious sort of gaming time. Like I have that kind of during the day where I like want to play something, or I need to play something, or whatever it is. I don't tend to have so many hours left over that I'd use it as a relaxing thing anymore. That's kind of, I do remember that, but that's, I do if I'm like traveling for sure. Like that's the time where I need to do that, but not so much anymore.
I like to play like old games that I kind of missed out on that I feel like are representative of weird pockets of game design. Like that's why I started playing Pikmin a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Playing Minish Cap, a Zelda game that a lot of people love that I never played. I like to just be, if one of those games grabs me and I play the whole thing, that's great. But it's kind of fun to just have like a low stakes, be like a tourist in that world. And yeah, I can't remember. I was reading a game designer talking about this recently where they said that oftentimes the way that game design, I think it might have been Raph Koster saying that the way people interface with games when they make games is often to play 15 minutes of a game and get like a little taste of it and then be like, okay, I'm out. Like,
right, yeah.
I don't want to see the whole thing. I just want to like sample the goods and then draw it internally for inspiration. So I like to just be like a tourist in games that I don't put any pressure on myself to finish.
Oh, one more that's not a puzzle game. Flock that came out last year. Richard Hogg and co. Very, very good. Just like relaxing video game. The sound design alone is worth turning on and just sitting in the forest, listening to the bleats and the bloops of all the little creatures.
Are you Frank? Call of Duty?
No, well, no. My first thought was like, oh, Mortal Kombat 1, like the Mortal Kombat games, Injustice stuff, because it's like, yeah, you can pick up and do a match for 10 minutes or like 2 hours and like listen to a whole podcast. It has the permanent progression where it's like any character you pick, you're leveling up that character, you're getting cosmetics for that character, or coins to spend in the combat crypt, whatever. So lots of permanent progression. But all the Yakuza games are the most delightful games in the world because it's like, they're just like amusement parks. There's so many side stories. There's mini games. There's arcades within Yakuza. You can play Virtua Fighter or any racing game. So it's like even right now, Pirate Yakuza. I've done all the side quests. The only thing left to do is just finish the story. And I'm like, I mean, I'll do it, but like otherwise I have the platinum. So it's like, damn. Now once I finish that, I can go back and I have Yakuza 5 and 6, and then I'm all caught up.
All done.
And then it's like, well, I could replay Yakuza 0 on Xbox and get achievements. But yeah, the Yakuza games are like supremely, just everything is delightful. And even if I get distracted or whatever, I will just leave the game on and listen to the audio because you'll have like the street crossing signs, the konbini sounds, the konbini music, just all the audio soundscape of those games, just the pedestrian noise, everything. It's like you are right in Tokyo. It's so good. Or, Dotonbori, Osaka, or wherever you are.
Sick.
And next email, Ian James wrote in, I heard about the game Peripeteia. There's a Steam link in there today, Peripeteia, and I instantly thought of Jeremy because of the amazing tone and mood that the game's atmosphere conveys. Seems like a strong pairing with the immersive sim gameplay. I was curious if he's played it. If he hasn't, there is a demo on Steam.
Whoa, this game
I have
insane.
played the demo. I have played the demo. This is a alt history Polish cyberpunk imsim. Very, very cool. I loved the demo. Is it out in early access or coming out?
It's out. It's $25 on Steam.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely will be playing. I'll probably wait a little bit because when I play early access games, I tend to play the early access version and then the full version comes out and I'm like, I already played that.
Yeah.
So when this is 1.0, I will 100% play it. But people should check out the demo. It's really, really interesting and different. And talk about games with fucking texture. This thing is fucking. This thing's got some flavor on it.
Awesome. Oh yeah, looks neat. I'm gonna check that out.
And then our last email is from Jose R. And they wrote, "Hello, Noclip. I'm curious how your mood affects how you feel when you're playing a game and the opinion you form after. I sometimes remember when I'm reading or watching a review or listening to you guys express your opinion that maybe that person's mental state can affect their opinion. Have you ever gone back to a game and said, man, this game was awesome. Why did I not like it?"
I definitely know that is like beaten out of you in when I worked at GameSpot. Like that is you need to have that radar that if you're not into something or it's not your, like there's a couple of barriers to that. Like if you're not good at one of those games as well, which becomes an issue because like then you have experts playing games, or people who like those games are generally experts at them playing those games. But also like, yeah, I think you need to be able to divorce as much as possible, which I think changed a lot. I think the way, and I think it changed overly so and too much to a fault, when I think personality led coverage sort of became the thing with like YouTubers and even places like Giant Bomb, like when there was this sort of like overemphasis on someone's opinion being really important, and it's sort of like, this is what I think of this game and stuff. And I think a lot of reviewing went way too, and also like editorials and everything went way too far down that rabbit hole, where people who maybe didn't have opinions that really people gave a fuck about were suddenly like all about what they thought of this and which I don't know, this is a whole, other rabbit hole of like, how do you objectively review games? You can't. But I do think that there is a space in the middle there where you are giving some of your, like, having insight into this piece of art, but you're also like trying to meet it on its terms as well, which I think that was at least sort of beaten out of me from probably reading reviews as much as actually working at a place like GameSpot. So yeah, I'm hyper aware of if I am enjoying a game because of my mood. And I'm also like, I've had like decades of therapy, so I'm also hyper aware of my mood. So I think that is probably part of it as well.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's one of those things where it's sort of like different layers where I can have a bad time and recognize that a game is of a certain quality or something, like, or just that a game doesn't click with me. Like the Indiana Jones game last year, I thought was incredibly competent and well made and like all of these things. And I just personally, the game design of it did not click with me. And so I simultaneously was like, wow, what a well made game that I don't like. So it's a very weird sort of superpositioned thing where you can have a beautiful meal on the table in front of you and be like, I don't like cilantro.
I think it's super important when you're dealing with any art at all, like, or sort of like life in general, is to be able to like separate, because it's kind of good for you as well, because it like lets you know your own preferences and who you are. Like you understand, like it's the same reason I'm not saying like, oh, the Assassin's Creed games have been bad since those 4 I liked, you know what I mean? But I think that's the way that I, for a long time as a younger person, related to art. Like there is good art and bad art, and I like the good art, and there's shit art that idiots like, and I think that's a lot of what the discourse online is as well. But like I said, I'm not out here saying that like those games are bad. I'm saying, and because I'm not doing that, because like you're having the same thing, Jeremy, where you're like looking at this game and going like, well, it's interesting then to learn about the aspects that make you feel that way. Like what is it about that game that creates the barriers for you? And which is why I like the fact that I can think about Assassin's Creed and go, oh, it's because of these things. And I also, I'm couching that in like, this is about me and how I relate to the game. This isn't me saying that this is the case for lots of other people, or more generally about like why these games don't work. It's why the whole woke shit is so stupid, because it's just a bunch of people who are too stupid enough not to be able to introspect at all and know that they have these biases. Like you can have preferences, that's fine. Go play fucking, Steam's got loads of games about fucking doing random weird shit in them that you can go play. But like having this sort of like dogmatic idea that is good and bad, and that everyone else thinks the same thing, and the people who don't think that are just, they do think that, but they're being disingenuous and they're lying and they're not saying it. That's just because people are fucking either young or stupid. Like it's not an excuse. So I think it's a really good thing to be able to like divorce yourself from the thing, because then you get to analyze the thing and you get to analyze yourself. You know what I mean? And hopefully it's not too masturbatory, and it's actually something that benefits you. Yeah,
I also think it's like, that's kind of how you develop like an informed sense of taste about any kind of art, is being aware of the things that you like and dislike, and being, serious and passionate about them, but kind of holding them lightly, where it's like, I have game design opinions on, like, there are a lot of AAA games that are very popular games of the last few years that I think in terms of their game design could have come out in 2001. Like I think they're unambitious and fucking they bore the shit out of me for that reason, because I'm like, why aren't, like, there's more polygons, but like try something fucking new. Like this is an art medium, you should like at least try something new. But if a friend of mine comes to me and is like, oh man, I played like whatever, you know, like the new Destiny 2 DLC or something, I'm not going to be like, oh, you're a fucking idiot. You must be stupid or something. Because it's like
Luddite or you.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's like there are different reasons people engage with pieces of art. Sometimes it's for entertainment, sometimes it's for fun, sometimes it's as like a serious piece of art, sometimes it's to learn about game design. And yeah, I think it's important, like take your own tastes seriously, but be able to, you know, have the self-awareness to like let go of that egoic attachment to like, I am right and this is objective. Be passionate, but don't be a fucking asshole.
And I think without ranting too much about it, I'll say one more thing. I think the other thing that's good about this, and maybe this is shakier ground, but I think when you're able to like separate how you feel and why you feel about something, like I understand a lot of my perspective is based on the fact that where I grew up, the country I grew up in, the social class I was based in, I've lived in different countries, and that was probably the thing that like helped me form that, like meeting different people and all that sort of stuff, my gender, my age, all that sort of stuff, right? Like the way we talk about the internet is clearly based on the fact that we grew up when the internet was awesome and was getting kind of worse, right? So like that's like there's all these external factors that are part of it. And obviously I think it is important to be able to divorce yourself from those things and like understand what subjectivity is. But I think the other really important thing about understanding what subjectivity is being able to recognize when something is objectively right or wrong. And I think this applies less to art and applies more to sort of like society or politics or, you know, war or any of these things. And I think this is the reason why people who tend to be more introspective and probably tend to be less conservative in that way are able to, and again, this is slippery slope. I might be preaching to the choir here. I might be just patting my own back and putting, you know, saying that like my thoughts are right. But I think this is why people who are more sort of like less conservative leaning and more introspective are able to sort of have strong beliefs about things that they view as objectively wrong, because they're analytical and because they can recognize when something is something that is my preference and I don't want to impose that on other people, like so much of like liberal sort of societal politics, right? And also be able to look at, you know, something like war or foreign policy or things like that are sort of like, it's not up to someone's preference, like this is something that is actually creating a harm. So, you know, and again, this is a bit of a slippery slope because I'm basically just, but even the fact that I think analyzing that thought process is like part of it. I think like when you can recognize subjectivity, I think makes it easier to understand when something is more objectively, you know, right or wrong are weird terms I don't like, but more objectively harmful maybe, or more objectively, you know, beneficiary to people, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. No, there's definitely like a weird hyper individualism thing where we have conflated subjective opinions and objective matters. For someone will be like, well, listen, I just think we should get rid of all of those type of people in the country, but like that doesn't mean we can't be friends. And it's like, whoa, man, like that's not like you like Mexican food and I like Thai food. Like we're not
the crazy
figuring
part
out
of
what to
that
get for
argument is
takeout.
they know, like that's what the justification is they know that what they're saying is wrong. Like they have to, or they wouldn't be like, but we could still be friends. Like, so you know that that's bad, and you're justifying it by being like, well, but it's okay because you guys make great tacos, so it's all right if I want you deported because I think your food is good. Like, there's the way to objectively view the situation. They can anyone can compartmentalize it, right? And even to your point, Danny, like conservatives will say exactly what you just said about their positions. Like the hard right wing, like MAGA guys will be like, you know, people who feel my position are analytical and are able to look into their things, and people who disagree with me are also, you know, they don't think about, it's all feelings, it's all facts, they don't believe in facts, they don't read the articles like I do. It's this like bizarre, when you disagree with someone politically, especially in a world where it's like information is two different ways, it's like the truth and reality it's like so fake. You read a completely different side of things, and I'm not arguing that like the things that I think are true in the same way that you were just saying that, like, I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just making the point that like it's so easy to be like, we need to look deeper, and unfortunately, because of the shape of the internet now and the way that it's got so bad, people will think that that's what they're doing, and in reality they're not anyway.
And people in any sort of political spectrum can fall foul of
100%
of groupthink and not thinking about things. I just think there's something inherent, especially what you guys saying we're just there's something inherently, like, to a certain degree, whatever you want to call it, wokeness, whatever, let's go with political correctness. That was sort of like a term that is a bit antiquated at this stage. At a certain, and people can be overly political correct. Like we're all fucking weirdo punk kid grew up fucking skateboarding, breaking into places, and like being fucking countercultural, right? And like a certain point, you become the culture because you get old and the culture moves with you and whatnot. But like at a certain point, I think there is a lack of the whole point of the pushback to something of political correctness is as much about cultural signifiers as it is about analyzing things deeper. Like it's actually a pushback to analyzing things. It's a don't worry about it. Like, stop bringing that up. Don't worry. Like, it's not a big thing. Like why can't we just, the common sense, like all these terms that are thrown out to basically be like, don't think about this any deeper. Don't ask people about it. Don't ask other people's opinion.
It's not that deep, bro. It's,
right? Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that.
Not terminating cliches.
Because you can have differing opinions. Like, I think the gun control debate in this country is really interesting because there are people who like live out in fucking ranches who have one feeling about gun control, and there are people who, are fucking middle class sports shooters who have one opinion, and then there are people who like whose kids go to school in inner city neighborhoods who have a totally different opinion. And there's an opinion to be had. I have my personal opinion on it, but I get that there's sort of like yardage may vary, but that's fine because those people have thoughts and opinions. But when you get into this issue of like, oh, just like, I'll go with my groupthink and I don't want to talk about it and I don't want to analyze it. Like, that's where ignorance ends up being the sort of, ignorance points the way, and nothing. I mean, we live in that world right now. Like, that's, we mentioned RFK earlier. Like, I just can't even open the news at the moment just to see the fucking stupidity.
Brother, I've been checking Blue Sky the last like 10 minutes. I want to rip my own eyeballs out of my head. Every time I look, it's like, oh, the reviews for Assassin's Creed Shadows are decent. Hey, how's GDC going? And then it's like, oh, hey, here's the new executive order that got signed. All blueberries are now bombs. And I'm like, wait, what happened to the blueberries? I thought they were delicious.
Blueberries are bombs?
They are now, as per Donald. No, I don't want to read the real things that are happening, man.
I've actually stopped even going on Blue Sky recently because every time I go on, I'm like, oh, it's just a bunch of problems I didn't need to know about.
Then you go over to Twitter and you're like, yes, anger.
No, God, that's Twitter's gone insane now at this stage. Anyway.
To answer your question, Jose, Hatoful Boyfriend. I didn't like it at first, and then I went back and played it, and I was like, damn, I want to have sex with these pigeons.
Oh, Dr. Shu. What a dude. I love that big fat pigeon.
Did you get the secret fun ending?
Dude, I got every ending in Hatoful.
Oh, what a goat. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to...
I have the fucking plushies over here.
Oh, there you go.
I'm deep.
You're a Hatoful. Didn't they announce a new one?
Did they?
Am I losing it? I could have swore.
I haven't. I don't think there's been one since Holiday Star, the Christmas
you don't have to tell me.
For Hatoful Boyfriend.
Ooh, they made a Picross game. Ooh, I know what I'm doing. This is great.
Hatoful Boyfriend. Is there a Hatoful Boyfriend? We call it 3? I don't know. Hatoful Boyfriend.
What is I assume it is a like a anglicized version of a Japanese word. What does Hatoful mean?
Oh, I remember looking it up before. It is a word play-y thing. I think is hato like bird or something, or there's in English. I think
right.
it's
I just
Hatofuru. Is heartwarming, feel good.
Yeah, hato means pigeon. Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. It's both of those, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, it's like feel good. It's a wordplay.
Pigeon.
Japan loves their wordplay.
Yeah.
Feel good, heartwarming pigeon game.
That's what it is. Kind of. At least that's what it feels
like.
For
the first 6 hours.
Yeah. I've not played Doki Doki Literature Club, but I think I know what that game is because I've played
I don't need to. I don't need the anime girls. That's what I got the anime pigeons for.
Exactly. Dr. Shu is like the fucking Eric Cartman of that game. Like, and you are Scott Tenorman. It's like, it gets real dark.
I kind of want to play it again.
Yeah, me too.
It's good.
They should make an Unreal Engine version of that game.
Ooh.
Man, we went off on one there. That was good. That was good shit. That was a podcast, folks. Better let these boys go to the bathroom at this stage. Thanks for listening to our ramblings each and every week. We really appreciate it. We sometimes also make documentaries on the side when we're a little bit bored. At this stage, mostly Jeremy puts them out. I feel like it's been a lot. He's been editing and making a lot of these things. A lot of my projects have taken fucking forever to get finished. I put up a little video. It'll be up on the channel later today. So definitely by the time this is out, that's basically like a 5 minutes of why we're working on this Dwarf Fortress thing. And I was saying that the experience of being a Noclip subscriber is that we don't say anything for months and then suddenly there's an hour-long documentary about a Counter-Strike level that just appears out of nowhere, But yes, the first episode of Dwarf Fortress should be live by the time you're listening to this. The second one will be available on early access as well. It actually is right now. Getting some good feedback on it. So we're excited to get the Dwarf Fortress series out there. There's a bunch of other stuff getting worked on. Jeremy's put together a great documentary we haven't announced yet because it's just too much of a pipeline at the moment. I'm obviously been chipping away at our Disco Elysium one as well. Cyberpunk will be later in towards the summertime. We also have our series on Everbloom, the sort of technical how games are made series, which will also be coming together. You may also notice that we have some new graphics as well. Shout out to Dan Silverstone who did a sort of a It's basically the old logo, but we sort of cleaned it up. We gave it a slightly new font, and so we're getting bumpers done for the patron show and behind the scenes and all that, just to sort of like solidify the look. And we have new lower thirds, just because they haven't been done since our good friend Girk made the original ones back in 2016. We just tidied those up a little bit, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah, and shout out to Dan. It's the homie.
Yeah, Dan's the best. Dan does incredible work for us over the years. He's done Greatest Hits and loads of other bits and bobs. He's made some, and obviously all the Secret Tape stuff as well. He worked on as well. So, yeah, really cool stuff. All right, that's a podcast. Thanks so much for hanging out, everyone. We'll see you next week and talk about some more video games. Bye. That's the thoughts on Danny's politics. Bye.